subscribe, like the video, and, if possible, join Patreon. But if you don't have much money, you can support the channel by watching the novels on euroaudiobooks.com. Remember that you can participate in the polls so that your favorite novel gets published for free.
Mutant documentary once again appeared in the camera. I saw Shadow Cat in the camera with an extremely serious expression. The voice was also full of inexplicable grief and indignation. Not long ago, we informed the X-Men of everyone's comments on this channel. In fact, as early as the first time we knew the news, the X-Men had already rushed towards the battlefield. Now they've arrived. Under the control of Alice, the lens automatically shifted and the high-definition zoom function was activated. Immediately, the audience saw that familiar Blackbird fighter plane appearing in the distant sky. Coming. The X-Men are coming. I knew that they're all superheroes, and they will never care about the lives of the people. That's it. The X-Men will definitely defeat those two monsters. Twister City is saved. That's not necessarily true. Didn't you see that after Iron Man joins the battlefield and joins forces with another little green titan, there's nothing he can do about that violent monster? The X-Men will definitely win. Hey, didn't you ever see the sharpness of Wolverine's claws? It must have broken that monster's defenses. And Storm, she can control thunderstorms. And Cyclops' laser beams. Phoenix can control objects. All the people who paid attention to this matter instantly boiled. From the beginning of the live broadcast, the popularity has skyrocketed at an incredible speed. However, to their surprise, there were still 4 people getting off the Blackbird, but there was no Storm, but a bald old man in a wheelchair instead. Also, the old man seems to be the leader of the X-Men, Professor X. Those who have watched the X-Men documentary immediately saw his identity. Immediately, everyone heaved a long sigh of relief. After all, it can be seen from the documentary that Professor X has a powerful mind ability, which can completely ignore the terrifying physical defense of the green monster. Sure enough, as soon as Professor X appeared, he was beating Hulk's abomination violently, and his movements stopped abruptly. Hulk, who had been beaten up all the way for a long time, and Iron Man, who was circling in the air, were slightly taken aback. But then, Professor Chu's surprised voice sounded in their minds. His thoughts are extremely chaotic and violent, and it seems that more than two already violent thoughts are integrated together, and an unknown change has taken place. I can only temporarily control him. The time is too short. There is no way to take him away from this place. At most 30 seconds, he will break free. He must be eliminated. As Professor X said, he pressed his right hand on his temple unconsciously. This kind of small movement when he activates his spiritual ability, he only did it when he was young, which means he has done it with all his strength. Do it! Hulk's mind was also in a mess, so he didn't react for a while. But Iron Man didn't have the slightest hesitation, and huge amounts of red laser light appeared on his arm instantly. When facing whiplocks, this laser weapon can only be used once. But now, it's ready for multiple uses. The red laser shot directly at Abomination's chest. The severe pain made him howl unceasingly, and his thoughts became more and more tyrannical, wanting to break away from Professor X's control. Unfortunately, at this time, Wolverine and Phoenix have also been killed. Hey, big guy, do you think your skin is thicker, or my claws are sharper? Logan spat out the cigar in his mouth, leaped 3 meters away, and came to the front of the Abomination. His claws stretched out like a bag, and he pierced the Abomination's chest with a hiss. Adamantium is indeed the hardest metal in the world, yet it easily broke through the defense of the Abomination. But Logan's strength is not enough after all, and he can't fully exert the sharpness of adamantium claws. The wolf claws only pierced a small part. Logan roared loudly, and Phoenix, who had already been prepared, moved when he heard the sound. Psychokinesis was brought to the extreme in an instant, and he actually controlled Logan's wolf claws and merged with his own power. Tear hard. A wound visible to the naked eye appeared on the chest of the Abomination. What? He roared loudly. His thoughts became extremely violent in an instant, and he finally broke free from Professor X's mind control. But at the moment, the red rays of Cyclops arrived too. the wound torn open by the wolf's claws. Obviously, on the way here, everyone has already discussed the strategy to deal with the abomination, and the cooperation is full of tacit understanding at this moment. With just one face-to-face, the hatred was severely damaged. The laser light blasted directly into his body along the wound, and the blood gushed out instantly evaporated. Seeing this scene in the eyes of the audience, they almost thought his body had been shot through. "You mutants, why are you here to join in the fun?" An angry and violent voice came out of his mouth. His green eyes were full of hatred, and he broke free from the hatred of mind control, showing a completely different side from Hulk. He perfectly retains Bronski's character and sanity. Definitely also combat literacy. Boom! He almost immediately kicked Hulk flying under his feet, and his huge body smashed towards Cyclops and Phoenix in the distance, forcing them to dodge. The laser light suddenly disappeared. At the same time, Hate stretched out his arms and closed them violently, as if he wanted to smash Logan into a pulp. Shit, how does this guy look like a well-trained soldier? Logan, who had served in the Special Forces, immediately felt the difference in the loathing and quickly drew out his wolf claws, doing a backflip to avoid the claws of the loathing. The same question also appeared in the hearts of the audience at the same time. As if to help them out, the camera suddenly splits into two parts. One part is still a dangerous battle scene, while the other part shows the shadow of the on-site reporter Shadowcat. I believe everyone must be very curious. Where did these two big guys come from, and whether they're mutants that failed to evolve? Under Lynn's influence, Shadowcat has matured a lot. When she mentions mutant, she can't leave the word evolution, which subtly influences the public's perception of mutant. In fact, on the way to the scene, I had the same question as everyone. If these two mutants failed to evolve, it undoubtedly shows that there are huge amounts of human genetic evolution. Risk. But after arriving at the scene, I happened to meet one of the participants in this incident, and only then did I know the truth of the incident. At this point, the previous anger reappeared on Shadowcat's face. It turns out that these two green monsters have nothing to do with mutant, but the military's super soldier plan. Product of as soon as this remark came out, the whole internet was boiling. In everyone's mind, a thought appeared unconsciously. Military again? Why is it the military again? The matter of Wilhelm Stryker is still being fermented on the internet. The military has come up with such a thing again. How many buildings have been destroyed in a big battle between Hate and Hulk? Dead how many people? How many things did the military do to threaten the safety of the people behind our backs? All of a sudden, everyone who saw the live broadcast went crazy again. And those who support the military and think that Shadowcat is wantonly slandering, the next moment they saw a terrified face appearing in the live broadcast. Hi everyone, my name is Samuel Stern, my online name is Mr. Lawn, and I'm a doctor of genetics. Wearing a blue coat with a trace of blood remaining on his face, the man explained to the world with a wry smile. The reason why I appear here is because of that smaller green titan. It's my friend, and that violent green monster became like this after being injected with the serum I researched. Boom! The whole network is in an uproar. Chapter 69, Out of Control, Super Soldier Plan. Samuel Stern, also called Mr. Blue in Lynn's address book. At the moment, the battle between X-Men, Iron Man, Hulk, and Abomination is in full swing, but most of the audience in the live broadcast room are not paying attention to it. Everyone listened attentively to Mr. Land's explanation. Actually, I'm not particularly clear about the whole thing. It was all told to me by my netizen, that is, the Green Titan Hulk. Mr. Land glanced at Lynn, who was not in the camera, took a deep breath, and said slowly, "Many people have seen the statue and deeds of Captain America in the World War II Memorial, but they don't know the appearance of Captain America Stephen Rogers from a secret military experiment, the Super Soldier Project. The content of this plan is to develop a super serum that changes the human body's genes and inject it into the human body, so that the experimenter has powerful strength, speed, endurance, and responsiveness. Stephen Rogers is the subject of this project, and the only one that succeeded. The injection of super serum made him change from a thin man to a superhero who rampages on the battlefield. If there are no accidents, after him, there should be an entire corps of super soldiers. But unfortunately, Dr. Erkins, who developed the super serum, was assassinated. Speaking of this, Mr. Lon didn't show sadness on his face, but was a bit weird. Dr. Erkins is the only one who has mastered the serum formula. His death has brought the entire super soldier plan to a standstill. But the military didn't give up, and soon, they restarted the program, with General Ross in charge. The Green Titan Hulk you see, that is, Dr. Bruce Banner, was once tricked into joining the project. He thought he was conducting gamma-ray experiments, but he didn't know that he was actually participating in the super soldier project. Then, the accident happened again. 867, during an experiment, he was polluted by gamma rays, and his body mutated. As long as he was angry to a certain extent, he would turn into the green monster that everyone saw. Since then, he has been hunted down by General Ross. The military wants to study his blood and create a brand new super serum that is far superior to the original. At the moment, the audience has absolutely no idea that what Mr. Lon said has actually been memorized by heart long ago. He quickly told about Banner's escape, inadvertently meeting him on the internet, and sending blood samples for him to help research the antidote. Definitely, after General Ross discovered the trace, he brought special elites to arrest him, and these obviously don't matter. The important thing is Bronsky. Banner has been injected with the antidote I developed hastily. Although the effect is not great, he can already control his anger, so he was easily taken away by the military. When Mr. Lon said this, there was a look of fear on his face. At that time, I thought this matter was over. The end of Dr. Banner's second half of his life was to become an experimental subject of the military, and he would never see the light of day. Emil Bronsky, the captain of the special forces responsible for arresting him, went crazy after seeing Hulk's powerful strength. He put a gun to my head and made me inject him with Hulk's blood. God, he even injected the super serum that the military researched later. It's just that the serum is obviously not perfect, with huge amounts of defects after integrating with Hulk's blood. It turned him into such a violent monster who only knows destruction. He even gave himself a new name called Abomination. If it wasn't for my good luck, I would have been beaten to death by him at that time. After he finished speaking in one breath, his whole body felt relieved. It has to be said that his eloquence is quite good. The audience who heard the ins and outs of the whole incident suddenly realized that they had a clear understanding of the two green monsters who were frantically wrestling together on the battlefield. So, Hulk is a scientist. It turns out that the Abomination is a special elite of the military. And the reason why they turned into such monsters is all because the military restarted the super soldier program and developed a flawed super serum. It's just that one is passive, while the other is active. Everyone knows the truth. Then, anger surged into my heart like an overwhelming mountain. It turns out that the contract that was ravaged, the people who died tragically in the war of hatred and chaos, the nightmare that was shrouded in countless people's heads tonight, all lie in the army. They are conducting such a dangerous experiment in secret. If you're not careful, you will create a monster. Do not. They just want to create monsters because they need so-called super soldiers. In an instant, not only people in New York, but also people in other cities felt numb all over, and their whole body was shrouded in a deep sense of insecurity. Who knows that one day, where I live and live, there will suddenly appear a terrifying monster that only knows destruction. This is completely different from Wilhelm Stryker's Weapon X project. Although Wilhelm Stryker is evil, he only wants to eliminate mutant, and he has no threat to ordinary people. However, General Ross, who is in charge of the Super Soldier Project, can cause devastating casualties to ordinary people after a failed experiment. Today's Broadway Street. I don't know how many people have died. FK. This General Ross is more vicious than Wilhelm Stryker. The military actually let such a person become a general. He should be court-martialed with Wilhelm Stryker. There is also the so-called Super Soldier Project, which completely ignores the safety of the people. This is a crime. The entire military is committing crimes, and the officials and the president can't approve it. The Eagle Sauce country is hopeless. Weapon X Project, Super Soldier Project. How many secret plans does the military have that threaten the safety of the people? I think Mutant is much cuter now. Compared to them, those in the military are monsters. If they continue to be crazy like this, maybe one day, the whole contract will be ruined by them. Countless messages began to flood the screen, and the turbulent public opinion once again raged, and this time, with the battle between Abomination and Hulk in Twist City. It will obviously spread faster and more turbulently. General Ross, totally famous. Beck, notorious. Notorious. On board the Osprey. General Ross was looking nervously at the battlefield below, but the appearance of Iron Man and X-Men no doubt greatly relieved him. As long as the Abomination can be dealt with, even if Hulk escapes, the Greenskin Project will not be considered a failure. Anyway, the goal of the plan is to develop a brand new, controllable Green Titan serum. From this point of view, the Abomination as an experimental subject is even more suitable. After all, Bruce Banner couldn't even speak after turning into a Green Titan, and the Abomination, it seems, completely retained Bronski's character and intelligence. This undoubtedly shows that the mutation of hatred is more mature. Mutant is still useful. It seems that Stryker's X-Weapon project is not as worthless as imagined. As soon as this idea came to General Ross's mind, a voice suddenly inserted into the communication channel. General Ross, congratulations on becoming famous. A very beating voice appeared in his ears. He rudely teased a general. General Ross glanced up and found that none of the soldiers in the fighter plane responded. It seemed that the communication was only connected to the headset on his head. His face suddenly changed. I'm from SHILD. The voice on the other end of the communication said, if I were you, I would immediately take out my mobile phone and receive the latest news from the Global Daily. SHILD. General Ross was dumbfounded. Given his level, he obviously knew about the existence of S.H.I.E.L.D. suddenly. His heart skipped a beat, and he quickly took out his phone and turned on the news. Then, Eddie Locke's angry face appeared on the screen, but he didn't speak. More than half of the screen is playing the interview video of Mr. Lawn. The Global Daily actually recorded the entire live broadcast of Shadowcat, and it went directly to the news. After what happened last time, Eddie Locke seems to have found the traffic code. Great gift crap. Isn't this Mr. Lawn the scientist who helped Hulk study serum? How does he know so much? Before watching the video, General Ross was completely stunned. Even Banner himself doesn't know about these things. So how could he possibly tell him? 1 second, he was still fantasizing about catching the Abomination and developing a new Green Titan serum. And the next second, he found that his old background had been exposed. This gap was so great that he didn't react at all. But Nick Fury on the other end of the phone reacted. General Ross. Obviously, this matter has something to do with Mutant. On the one hand, they sent X-Men to deal with the Abomination. On the other hand, expose your super soldier plan on the Mutant channel. You know, the two monsters you created with your own hands are frantically destroying the contract. Once this matter spreads, what will happen? Don't I need to tell you? Mutants harvest flowers and applause. And you, the shame of history. This is an old trick they used. They did the same thing when they dealt with Wilhelm Stryker last time, but it seems that you, General Ross, haven't learned from it. Ross punched the cabin. Damn lesson. I have nothing against Mutant. He came to his senses in the middle of speaking and turned his eyes to look at the battlefield below, and his whole body was suddenly shrouded in a chill. They want to step on my head to gain fame. It seems that you're not carried away by anger. Nick Fury laughed teasingly. What responded to him was an angry roar from General Ross. FK, I don't know if this scolding was aimed at Mutant or Nick Fury. Is the person from SHILD contacting me just to ridicule without nutrition? Or do you have a way to help me solve this problem? No. Nick Fury was silent for a while, and then said, this is not intentional slander. They just said what you have done. Before he could finish speaking, General Ross sneered, thank you for reminding me. He didn't finish his sentence either. SHIELD can help you. Nick Fury's voice suddenly became extremely calm. You are different from Wilhelm Stryker. You are a general. If SHIELD mediates from it, this matter may not have a big impact on you. Condition. General Ross also came to his senses and got straight to the point. They are all smart people. Nick Fury is also very happy. The Super Soldier Project must be supervised by SHIELD. When he said this, Nick Fury's face was full of fear. Hey, there have been too many moves lately. Chapter 70 Monster Maker. Get out of the contract. After disconnecting, Nick Fury's eyes were slightly excited. Hill looked at him with a strange expression. Boss, you seem to be quite skilled at taking advantage of the fire. Why is this taking advantage of the fire? Nick Fury didn't seem to hear Hill's ridicule, rubbed his eyebrows and said, The Avengers formation plan is not going well. We need more superheroes at this time. The military super soldier plan is undoubtedly a good supplement, but their super soldier plans got out of control. Hill said lightly, obviously having a different view from his boss. That Hulk is a product of accident, and he still retains a trace of kindness in his performance. But that abomination. If there is no X-Men to take action, he will tear down the whole twist. Because of this, the Super Soldier program needs us to step in and steer it on the right track. Nick Fury said righteous words, every word sonorous. Boss, we are not gods. It is impossible for the king to control everything. Hill shrugged his shoulders and said non-committally, looking at the abomination. The military super serum is obviously flawed. What if they come up with a second abomination in the future? How we end up? So we need to form a strong Avengers in case something like this happens. We can also... Nick Fury obviously thought about it a long time ago and suddenly reacted in the middle of speaking. Hill, do you have any other ideas? Hill was silent for a while. After thinking about it, he said cautiously, Perhaps we can try to contact the X-Men. The implication is that SHIELD can win over X-Men, even Mutant, as a part of Avengers and cooperate with each other to maintain the safety of the world. Nick Fury's heart trembles, but not because of the idea that Hill came up with. It's because the idea came from Hill's mouth. This undoubtedly means that Mutants' recent actions have been quite successful. Even the airship commander of SHIELD thinks that Mutant can cooperate sincerely. Impossible. Nick Fury sighed deeply. Hill puzzled. Why is it impossible? Because the power of Mutant is uncontrolled. The World Security Council will never agree to let an uncontrolled force enter SHIELD. Nick Fury looked at his subordinates with a complicated expression. Hill, you are still not sensitive enough to these things. Although SHIELD has a detached status, it is still an official organization affiliated to the governments of various countries. In other words, this institution must be in the hands of ordinary human beings. Think of our first Avengers roster. Hill heard the words, thought for a while, and immediately understood. The first list of the Avengers, Captain America Stephen Rogers, is a man-made super soldier. Black Widow and Hawkeye are the agents controlled by the government. Iron Man is strong by relying on technology. Yes, the Green Titan Hulk, accidentally created by the military, was also on the first list of the Avengers, and he is an accidental product of the Super Soldier Plan. In other words, the abilities of these people are all created by humans. But Mutant is different. Mutant's super ability is born, which to a large extent completely distinguishes them from ordinary people. The long-term hostility and exclusion between the two sides is not without reason. In other words, mutants are another race. If they are allowed to enter SHIELD and have power that they have never had before, how can the officials of various countries sleep soundly? In case one morning wakes up and finds that the entire SHIELD has been controlled by Mutant. Still have to cry to death? So, this is not a question of whether Mutant can be trusted or whether Mutant can protect the world as a superhero, but Mutant must never be allowed to gain political power. Hill muttered to himself. Then I couldn't help but burst into a swearing. Damn politics. It's reality, Hill. Nick Fury shrugged. If SHIELD wants to protect the world better, it must abide by the rules of the game. Otherwise, as soon as the funds of various countries are withdrawn, SHILD will immediately exist in name only before he could finish speaking. The phone rang suddenly. He took out a look, and a bright smile suddenly appeared on his face. It's Stephen Rogers. It seems that he has finally figured it out and is willing to join us. He is obviously very confident about recruiting Captain America. That's the truth. As soon as the call was connected, Captain America on the other side said straight to the point, Nick, I, an old guy who has been out of touch with the world for 70 years, is willing to join SHILD and protect the world with you, but I have one request. What request? I will definitely do it. Finally got the good news. Nick Fury agreed, quite happily. You know what happened to the contract break. As soon as these words came out, an ominous premonition emerged in Nick Fury. Captain America on the other end of the phone didn't notice it and said to himself, the Hulk and the abomination that almost ruined the entire contract and caused countless casualties were all created by the military's super soldier plan. The most ironic thing is that the reason why the military restarted the super soldier program was because I succeeded back then. It turns out that my success has created countless failures in the future. Captain America's voice seemed a little downcast. Apparently, he had just woken up and found out that such a thing had hit him to a certain extent. But his belief is unwavering. So, the first thing I did when I joined SHILD was to stop the military super soldier program, lest they create more monsters. I can't do this alone. I must rely on the help of SHILD. Nick, would you like to help me? Nick Fury's expression froze instantly. He'll clearly sense the psychological changes of his boss. If it can manifest, it must be a series of non-repetitive FK and shit. He just made a deal with General Ross, and the super soldier plan will be supervised by SHILD in the future. Turnaround Captain America is going to stop this plan? Does this count as extreme joy or sorrow? Definitely. I will definitely help you. Nick Fury scolded his mother in his heart, but on the surface there was no hesitation at all. The current super soldier plan has obviously deteriorated, and the power of the super serum can no longer satisfy them. If this continues, I don't know how many people's lives will be lost, being threatened. So I will help you, Stephen. So, welcome to the Avengers, Captain. After hanging up the phone, Nick Fury's face immediately turned 180 degrees. He looked at Hill and ordered coldly. In the future, matters related to the super soldier plan must be kept strictly confidential. Only agents above level 9 are eligible to review, and Stephen 100% confidentiality. Hill was not at all surprised by this order. SHILD is an organization that keeps the world safe. But the director of SHILD has always been an unscrupulous person. On the other side, Lynn has been on the rooftop, watching the battlefield below. Asked for flowers, Charles is still as soft-hearted as ever. He curled his lips, not surprised. In sight, under the mind control of Professor X, Wolverine, Cyclops, and Phoenix cooperate tacitly, plus Iron Man harassing in the air, and how Shoe's teleportation from time to time, although the hatred is very powerful. It still has no power to fight back. The whole battle didn't last too long, and he was completely wiped out. But the X-Men did not kill the killer, but stayed at the scene after everything was over, looking at the Osprey fighter in the sky. Not long after, General Ross got down from the fighter plane. What appeared in front of his eyes were countless collapsed and damaged buildings. Corpses lying motionless on the ground one by one, and the crowd watching from afar when the matter was over. In the ears are the chaotic sounds of the wailing of the injured, the sound of police cars and ambulances, and the noisy voices of people. Under the watchful eyes of everyone, with his psychological quality, he couldn't help but feel a little pressure. The daughter, Betty Rose, who was behind her, rushed towards Hulk regardless. But she quickly stopped, because Hulk's eyes were full of vigilance, and his eyes kept wandering between her, General Ross. Charles, Mr. Stark, thank you for assisting the military in eradicating. General Ross took a deep breath, bit the bullet, and walked towards the center of the battlefield. But before he could finish speaking, someone among the crowd watching suddenly shouted, "Monster Maker, get out of the contract." This sound was like a signal, instantly igniting the anger of countless people. Obviously, many people watched Shadowcat's live broadcast just now, but they didn't know what happened, and it was quickly popularized by others. As a result, everyone's eyes on General Ross changed. Monster Maker, get out of the twist. Monster Maker, get out of the twist. Monster Maker, get out of the twist potion. At this moment, no one cared about the military's deterrence. Everyone was full of hatred for this monster who created and destroyed his own homeland and wanted to rush up and beat him up. The waves of sound continued and soon gathered together, resounding over the sky of Twisting City. General Ross' face changed suddenly, but his pace did not stop, and he was still heading towards the center of the battlefield. No matter what, the dying hatred must fall into the hands of the military, as expected of someone who can be a general. On the rooftop, Shadowcat couldn't help but sneered. Compared to him, Wilhelm Stryker is not enough. Lynn is noncommittal. The live broadcast has ended. Mr. Lon Samuelsten's face is full of curiosity. Mr. Lynn, don't you intend to stop it? If they're taken away by the military, they will definitely study the Green Titan serum. So what? Lynn didn't care. The injection of serum you gave him has completely destroyed his brain, and now every drop of blood in his body is full of tyrannical factors. Even if the military can use his blood to develop the Green Titan serum can only create a bunch of monsters. Isn't this a good thing for us? Mr. Land's eyes flickered slightly, and his awe of Lynn became stronger. He is the only one in the whole world who knows that this matter is actually under the control of this young man in front of him from beginning to end. Poor General Ross probably thinks that the appearance of the X-Men is just a coincidence. But in fact, as early as when he and Hulk became netizens and secretly helped research serum, this young man had already approached him. Chapter 71, Hulk Hates Magicians. This matter is actually quite simple. Knowing the plot, Lynn just found Mr. Lon at the right time, and after a chat, he successfully invited him to be a visiting professor at Xavier School in the near future, and gave him a phone number. Call whenever Bruce Banner is visiting. And then in the serum that Bronski injected, he added a little bit of something. Mr. Lon is a person with an extremely strong desire for knowledge. For him, satisfying his curiosity is more important than anything else. This can be seen from the fact that he secretly helps research serum when he does not know Hulk at all. He hadn't been willing to give in to Lynn. For this reason, Lynn did not use magic, such as Confusion Curse or Imperius Curse. Instead, it just puts a condition: fund him to build a completely independent laboratory. In addition to the funds, he will also provide the laboratory with Hulk's blood, and even the blood of various mutants, so that he can wander in the ocean of super abilities. Mr. Lon agreed with almost no hesitation. At the moment, it is obviously time for Lynn to deliver on her commitment to 780. But Mr. Lon has been hesitation for a long time, but he doesn't know how to speak. Although he doesn't know much about the truth, what happened today is almost exactly the same as what Lynn said at the beginning. The young man in front of him seemed to have predicted what happened today and then made targeted arrangements. If it weren't for that special serum, the abomination would never be so violent and crazy. The battle with Hulk will not spread so widely. Not so many people will die. In other words, this is a ruthless person who will do whatever it takes to achieve his goals. Now that he has completed all his plans, will he kill someone to silence him? Mr. Lynn, thoughts flickered in his mind. Mr. Lon took out a broken badge from his pocket and tentatively said, "Thank you for giving me this thing. If it wasn't for it, that slap of hate would have killed me already. It's just a little gadget, you're welcome." Lynn smiled, seeming to know what he was thinking. "You are the first visiting professor hired by the new Xavier School. Since you are one of our own, it is only natural for the school to protect your safety." Mr. Lon secretly heaved a sigh of relief when he heard this. Lynn had a half smile. This life-saving prop did save Samuel Stern's life, but made him lose the chance to be stained with Hulk's blood, increase his intelligence by 1,000 times, and become the famous villain's boss. If he himself knew this, he didn't know what his expression would be. But anyway, starting today, he is already a visiting professor at Xavier School. After confirming that Lynn had no intention of killing people, Mr. Lon asked directly, "Where will my laboratory be built?" And Hulk's blood. How can you keep providing it to me? It's very simple, Lynn said calmly. Isn't it enough to let Mr. Bruce Banner also become a professor at the new school? Kindness. Mr. Lawn was taken aback. Shadowcat's eyes suddenly flashed slightly. Hulk ran away. Then it's my turn to play. Lynn's voice came, and the person had disappeared in place. In the dark night, Hulk swayed quickly between cities. His jumping ability is really good. He used his strength to jump between various buildings and soon came to the suburbs. Seeing a forest in front of him, he got into it without any hesitation. Just as soon as his feet hit the ground, Lynn appeared in his sight. Hulk, who had just experienced a big battle, obviously maintained a very high level of anger, and his instinctive reaction was a vertical leap. A huge palm slapped Lynn's head. Calm down, big guy. I'm not here to find you. Lynn smiled slightly, and his figure suddenly became nothingness. Despite Hulk's great strength, it was like a slap on the air directly passing through his body. Hulk staggered and fell to the ground due to huge amounts of inertia. Four-ring space magic nothingness. It has to be said that Hulk's strength lies only in his tyrannical strength, speed, and reaction. In terms of fighting skills, almost half of it comes from instinct. Such a powerful existence, if it is on the battlefield, will definitely be able to go on a rampage and move forward indomitable. But heads up, especially if you're going head-to-head with a Fae. No kidding, Lynn has a million ways to cope. At the moment, he chose the one that saves the most effort, and while Hulk stabilized his figure, he raised his hand and sent out a spiritual magic. Super powerful stunning curse. The level of this magic is very low, only the second ring. But under Lynn's full power, the power has reached an astonishing fifth ring. With a buzz, a faint magical light directly entered Hulk's head. Kindness. He was dazed. He didn't fall asleep on the spot. He still rushed towards Lynn vigorously and slapped out wildly again. With a bang, Lynn's body exploded instantly. Hulk was stunned, as if he was a little surprised by the ending. And then he found that as far as he could see, one Lynn after another appeared in sight, densely filling the entire forest. Three rings mirror art. The movements of these Lynns are exactly the same. Raising their hands is a wave of magic light, and the real and fake powerful stun spells hit Hulk again. This time, he suddenly felt his eyelids sink, and he felt an extreme desire to sleep. Hulk shook his head violently, dispelling the strange drowsiness, jumping one after another, using his hands and feet together, smashing Lynn's one after another with boo-boo-boo and boo. However, these are all mirror images. Hey, big guy, don't you know that Magician has the upper hand against Berserk? Each Lynn spoke at the same time, with strange expressions on their faces, and the hidden Lynn's real body was still shot out with powerful stun spells. After a few minutes, Hulk was tortured, almost insane. His anger is getting higher and higher, his strength is getting stronger and faster, and his speed is getting faster and faster, but his eyelids are getting heavier and heavier, and his brain, which is not very bright, seems to be covered by a layer of cloud, and it is falling into darkness little by little. Finally, after enduring 98 powerful stun spells, he roared, "Hulk, hate magicians." Then he closed his eyes and fell to the ground with a bang, falling into a sweet sleep. The green skin that swelled like steel changed back to normal color little by little. The body also slowly changed back to human form. Only then did Lynn put away the mirror image technique, and all the duplications disappeared, leaving only one, and walked in front of him. "Mr. Bruce Banner, Hulk is asleep. Are you still awake?" As if in response to his words, Bruce Banner's eyelids twitched slightly. The next moment, he slowly opened his eyes. VRE. He seemed quite confused about what happened just now, looking at Lynn's gaze, full of uncertainty. Lynn, mutant, headmaster emeritus of the new Xavier School. Lynn introduced herself with a smile. "The reason why I came to see you, Dr. Banner, is to ask you to be the visiting professor and vice principal of the new Xavier School." Professor? Vice Chancellor? Banner looked confused, subconsciously asked 3 soul questions. "That's right, Mr. Bruce. You have 7 doctorates, and you are one of the most intelligent geniuses among human beings. You are the vice principal of the new Xavier School, responsible for teaching knowledge beyond abilities, and you are undoubtedly the most suitable person. 0.6 selection. Lynn looked sincerely and said slowly, as the vice principal, you will enjoy a high annual salary, a comfortable working environment, and you don't have to worry about being chased and killed at any time. For this reason, I specially hired Mr. Lon as a visiting professor, specializing in research the antidote for you. For Bruce Banner, he didn't offer any extra treatment. And just like a normal school, hire a normal teacher, because he knew very well that this was exactly what Banner needed. After living in exile for a long time, the only thing the world's top scientist wanted was a quiet and peaceful life. This is undoubtedly the greatest sincerity. Banner felt this sincerity, but he still asked subconsciously, "You let me be a professor. Are you afraid that the Hulk in my body will wake up and ruin your academy?" No problem. Regarding this point, Lynn's answer made him look confused. If Hulk wakes up inadvertently, I'll beat him back again. Are you polite? Chapter 72, The General Trend Has Come. Dog Day Ross. I have to say that Nick Fury, the director of S.H.I.E.L.D., deserves to be a person who is like a fish in water in the political world. He has an incomparably thorough understanding of mutant situation. Although the image of mutant has been greatly different from the past, after fermenting public opinion again and again during this period of time, more and more people have begun to believe and support mutant, but an image is just an image after all. Illusory. If mutant wants to fully come under the sun, it is absolutely not enough to have the support of some ordinary people. If the government does not recognize the legitimacy of this group for a day, mutant will still be able to shrink into a corner. Will humans officially recognize it? Definitely not. Once mutant becomes a legal group, it will inevitably have a huge impact on the existing political system. With mutants' endless emergence of super abilities, how can ordinary people compete with them? The simplest example, that Wolverine can't be killed no matter how hard she beats her. If she wants to become a police detective, how many major cases must be solved and how many gangsters should be eliminated? And that Professor X, which can read minds, if he becomes a judge or something, what crime could be hidden from him? There is also that Cyclops, a laser beam that sweeps away everything. If this goes to the battlefield, wouldn't the national merit skyrocket? There are too many such mutants. Once they enter the human government, 17 who can stop them from being promoted quickly, then infiltrating various departments and grasping more and greater power? At that time, will the country still be a country for ordinary people? This is an unsolvable contradiction. Those who have power will never give up power willingly. For this reason, they will do whatever it takes, even if they launch a war that will kill them all. This is also the reason why the officials of various countries have not officially implemented the Mutant Registration Act on the surface, but secretly never stopped the research on the mutant super ability. In the final analysis, there is no certainty of victory. It can only be tolerated temporarily. Politicians never lack patience. However, neither Nick Fury nor the president and congressman in the White House nor the bigwigs of the military would have imagined that a monster like Lynn would appear in Mutant. He is also aware of this point, so he didn't go head-to-head like Magneto, and he didn't compromise like Professor X. What he was aiming at was this opportunity to hold back. One word: the enemy retreats, we advance. Boiled frogs. From his second day on, the story of Hulk's contract with the Hate War spread like wings, and the corresponding one was naturally General Ross and his super soldier plan. Unsurprisingly, there was an uproar. Monster makers get out of the contract has become a well-known meme, and countless people feel that their safety is threatened, so they no longer happen only on the internet like the last time Wilhelm Stryker happened. But in reality, they took to the streets and appeared outside the 100 camps. For a time, the voices condemning General Ross were raging like a tide, and there was a lot of trouble. Some people even bound Wilhelm Stryker and General Ross together, demanding that the official public interrogation of this pair of crouching dragons and phoenixes in the military. Officials have definitely remained silent on this. Not even a single influential public figure spoke out for this matter. But there are spies in our team. On the third day, a person who no one expected suddenly appeared on TV and was interviewed by Eddie Bullock, the hottest reporter of Global Daily. Amora Mactag, a former CIA high-level agent who served as the head of the operations department before retiring. A simple self-introduction let all the audience know her identity. It turned out to be the CIA girl agent in the X-Men documentary, Professor X's girlfriend when he was young, and she appeared in the studio of Global Daily, not so much as an interview, but as a voice for Mutant. In view of the huge scandals that have occurred in the military in recent times, she believes that the ugliness of the human heart is more terrifying than the mutation of genes. The military has been making terrible weapons, but the X-Men can keep the lives of the people safe. That's a huge amount of irony. As a 70-year-old retired man who still lives not far from Broadway, she does not hope that one day she will be smashed in her house by a monster in her sleep and die for no apparent reason. Therefore, she publicly sued General Ross on the grounds that her life and property were threatened and formally filed a lawsuit in the federal court. At the same time, there is a strong call for the establishment of the Mutant Affairs Bureau to specialize in the management of mutant cheese. Make the X-Men truly an official organization with law enforcement powers. One stone stirs up 1,000 waves. The status of a former CIA high-level official makes Maura Mactag's speech extremely authoritative, because she is the only one who considers it from the public's point of view, and she is also an old man in her 70s. Such a retired person stood up. Couldn't it be for the sake of fighting for power? Do not. She is speaking out for the safety of the people. As a result, the extremely angry, contracting people seem to have found their backbone suddenly, and one after another woke up like a dream and joined the team responding to Maura Mactag without the slightest hesitation. Countless lawsuits were handed over to the courts. Public trial of General Ross. Public trial of Wilhelm Stryker. Establish the Mutant Affairs Bureau. Make X-Men an official organization. The military can't protect us. Let the X-Men come. The White House must never shield the military. The great battle between Abomination and Hulk had such a bad impact that the entire contract was shrouded in a cloud of darkness. As Maura Mactag said, no one wants to see another monster one day and send him a punch go west. As a result, the whole contract seems to be caught in a frenzy that has not been seen in a century. Great gift crab special. Is this Maura Mactag crazy? How could such a traitor appear in the CIA? The high-level White House officials who got the news soon were all shocked and angry. Almost 733 tables in the conference room were blown apart. What made them even more incredible was that Catherine Berger, the police superintendent of the NYPD 17th Precinct, even publicly supported Maura Mactag's proposal. Immediately afterwards, the New York State Court accepted these lawsuits. It was accepted by a female judge named Kate Mara, the woman who served Tony the Subpoena in Iron Man 2. This is betrayal. That police detective named Catherine, she was the one who arrested Wilhelm Stryker last time. Isn't she a police detective? Why is she still promoted? She must be a hidden mutant like this Kate Mara. They must be arrested immediately. FK. Angry cursing came and went. However, some people in the crowd frowned. I can assure you that Kate Mara is definitely not a mutant. Her resume is 100% correct. She turned out to be an executive officer of the court. She was recently promoted to a judge because of her excellent work. Someone also responded to the doubts about Catherine. She broke the assassination of the president, and the whole world knows, so why not give her a promotion? Now that something like this has happened, even if she wants to be dismissed, she can't do it right away. The key is to calm the impact of this incident. Noisy and noisy. The meeting room suddenly fell into silence. Then, almost everyone cursed in unison. Military Dog Days. Ross and Dog Days. Chapter 73, Shocked. Hydra may become the biggest winner. The officials in the conference room would never have imagined that at the same moment, General Scudder, the leader of the military, was also cursing General Ross. Ross, that idiot, swears to me that there is no problem with the operation, and we will have a Green Titan army soon, but he falls into someone else's trap. In a secret meeting room, Admiral Scudder made no secret of his dissatisfaction. No matter how the White House deals with him this time, the military has no objection. When the other three people in the meeting heard this, they all secretly rolled their eyes. Admiral Scudder seems to have shifted the responsibility to Ross, but he pointed out the key point of this matter in one sentence: Ross was tricked. And it was Mutant who designed this trap. The other party didn't even hide their existence. First, they used the Mutant channel of Daily X openly and above board. And then, somehow, they invited Maura MacTag speak up for the Mutant platform. This is quite a serious problem. The CIA, the police, even the court system have been infiltrated by Mutant? Is this worth it? In the current situation, everyone is very clear that there is no point in dealing with General Ross. Vice President Rodriguez was silent for a few seconds and then said, "The exposure of the Weapon X program last time can also be said to be Mutants' revenge on Wilhelm Stryker. After all, Stryker has caught a lot of mutants. But this time, they targeted General Ross and exposed the super soldier plan. It's clear that it was premeditated. Mutant, it's clear they want more than just turning their image around." He sharply pointed out the crux of the problem and then said, "This incident is testing our bottom line. If we agree to set up the Mutant Affairs Bureau, they will definitely make progress step by step and get their hands on the power that should not belong to them. It has to be said that those who can achieve this position are definitely not stupid people. Last time, he didn't speak for Wilhelm Stryker because the exposure of the X-Weapon project had no effect on him, and he could use the opportunity to suppress the power of the military. That is an internal struggle. But this time, what Mutant wanted obviously touched his bottom line. The White House originally planned to set up the Mutant Affairs Department to deal with mutant crimes, but it was a small agency under the CIA. To put it bluntly, it was just a display for people to see, and it was far outside the core power level. In contrast, the Mutant Bureau is completely different. Division, Bureau. The difference of one letter. The world of difference. How is it possible that the White House has agreed to let Mutant form a department on the same level as the CIA, FBI, and SHIELD, and the kind that has law enforcement powers? This is literally digging into the foundations of the White House. You're right, Rodriguez. The attitude of President Matthew Ellis has also changed, with deep doubts appearing on his face. The mutant group has obviously changed from before. They no longer rely on their super abilities, but use rules to seek their own benefit. This is not the style of Professor X, and it is not what a jailbroken Magneto can do. Mutant, there may be a new leader, and this person, we don't know anything about it. The complexions of Rodriguez and Admiral Scudder changed slightly. The two looked at each other, and they both saw the strong fear in each other's eyes. Immediately afterwards, the two said almost in unison, "If this is the case, we cannot compromise, and the Mutant Affairs Bureau must not be established." It has to be said that the vice president and the military general can abandon all power struggles and stand on the same front, which is enough to show how effective Lynn's efforts during this period are. The threat level of Mutant has already increased by several levels in their hearts. So is President Matthew Ellis. But he didn't agree, but sighed deeply. But have you ever thought that what happened this time is different from last time? Under the puzzled eyes of Rodriguez and Admiral Scudder, he said slowly, "Last time, we faced the public opinion of ordinary people. And this time, we are facing more than that. There are many, our own people inside." As soon as this remark came out, the faces of Rodriguez and Admiral Scudder were so gloomy that water could drip out. They instantly understood what the president meant. The battle between the Green Titan and the Abomination almost destroyed half of Broadway, and the number of casualties was too high to be counted in a short period of time. This undoubtedly made the entire contract breaker feel huge amounts of insecurity. And it's not just ordinary people who live in the twisting city, and people from various state agencies, from the ordinary staff up to the middle level with some power, and even the high-ranking officials in the large conference room outside. How many people have great resentment against the out-of-control super soldier plan? How many people are grateful for the X-Men's efforts to turn the tide? Let's not talk about the female judge named Kate Mara. let's talk about Catherine Berger of the 17th Bureau. The president's face is also not good looking. She is really just a small police officer. We can deal with her with a phone call, but since she led a team to assist the X-Men and destroyed Wilhelm Stryker's base, does she have much prestige in the police circle? There's also that Maura MacDag, who was the head of the CIA's operations department before she retired. Do you know how many CIA agents were trained by her? And how many of those agents have been in these years, made it to management? In these two departments alone, there are countless people who will support the proposal to establish the Mutant Affairs Bureau. Rodriguez and Admiral Scudder became more and more silent. Only then did they realize that some people who were not considered to be important roles in their eyes could display power far beyond their imagination at certain special moments. They can ignore the public opinion of ordinary people. But how could they ignore the huge voices within themselves? If this wave is too rough, it can overturn them all. In the final analysis, this incident, the room has passed a hornet's nest, and Mutant has perfect timing for the swarm sting. Then deal with Ross, publicly announce the end of the Super Soldier Project, and calm public opinion. Admiral Scudder thought for a while, and there was a hint of ruthlessness in his eyes. No matter what, the Mutant Bureau must not be established. Otherwise, there will be endless troubles. The president and vice president looked at each other, thinking for themselves. At the moment, the last person in this secret meeting suddenly smiled slightly and interrupted the discussion. It's just setting up a new department. Why do you have to be like an enemy? As the voice spread, the eyes of the other three were immediately attracted. Admiral Scudder's face was a bit ugly. Pierce, what's your opinion? Alexander Pierce, Secretary of the World Security Council. Also the immediate supervisor of S.H.I.E.L.D. The World Security Council is composed of heads of state and does not participate in specific affairs. Therefore, his weight as secretary is quite large. Being able to participate in a secret meeting of this level is evident. A brand new department is not so easy to set up. There is no budget, no manpower, no equipped weapons and equipment, no support from other departments. Isn't it empty? Pierce said calmly. Even if the so-called Mutant Affairs Department is at the same level as the CIA, FBI, or even SHIELD, it only has the power to deal with mutant crimes. What's the difference between this and the Mutant Affairs Department you originally planned to form? Even because of this, Mutant is under the jurisdiction of the White House. Isn't that a good thing? His point of view is completely different from that of the other three people. Don't forget, recently, the FBI, CIA, and SHIELD have not found a location of Xavier's school, and we are losing monitoring of Mutant. But once the Mutant Affairs Bureau is established, they are equivalent to being actively exposed under our noses. Wouldn't it be easier for us to deal with Mutant in the future? The president, vice president, and Admiral Scudder were all startled. Then the eyes lit up. I have to say that Pierce's words are very reasonable. In the final analysis, the establishment of the Mutant Affairs Department, or the Affairs Bureau, is just a title. Seems not that important. The three looked at each other, and the vice president still shook his head. But once you start this, it is equivalent to acknowledging mutants' right to participate in politics, in case later. Can you stop it now? Pierce sneered. Your Excellency Rodriguez, whether you want to admit it or not, the current mutant is no longer the previous mutant. They can't hold back anymore. War is a matter of time, and even now the horn has sounded. With one sentence, the atmosphere in the meeting room became chilling. And what we need now is time. As long as the antidote to mutant in Warthen Laboratory is successfully developed, or General Ross's Super Soldier Project achieves a breakthrough progress. When the time comes to break into Xavier's school and clear all the mutants, isn't it easy? The eyes of Rodriguez and Admiral Scudder flickered slightly. The former glanced at the president. The research of the Warthen Laboratory has entered the most critical moment, and the super ability elimination agent for human experiments will soon be produced. The Warthen Laboratory, apparently affiliated with the White House's Mutant Research Project, is under his control. Admiral Scudder heard the words and didn't hide it. Ross has brought the abomination back to the base. It shouldn't be a problem to research the green Titan serum. Just find a way to eliminate the violent factor in it and make it controllable. We shall have an army of green Titans. The president heard the words and did not respond. Instead, he looked at Pierce with a strange expression. Pierce, you, the secretary of the World Security Council, know our secret plan very well. That's what SHIELD is for, isn't it? Pierce didn't seem to hear the dissatisfaction in the president's words and smiled and said, Your Excellency, our world is undergoing unprecedented changes, and Mutant is just an insignificant part of it, and it's not worth your effort at all. This seems to mean something else. The three presidents looked at each other and asked, What do you mean? Look at this. Pierce smiled, took out a small projector, and aimed it at the wall of the meeting room. Just when you were being overwhelmed by Mutant, SHIELD discovered that the Earth has been visited by aliens. After our initial contact with each other, got this. Needless to say, the three presidents have already seen it on the screen. This is a desert. A rainbow beam of light suddenly appeared in the sky, and then a robot with a strange shape appeared out of thin air. Now, with a red light in his eyes, a violent explosion occurred in the small town on the desert. I saw a burly and strong man rushing out of the small town with a hammer in his hand and fought with him. All of a sudden, the storm surges, the thunder and lightning dance wildly. This turned out to be the battle between Thor and the Destroyer, Thor 1 plot. The pupils in the eyes of the three presidents suddenly shrank to the extreme. Even watching the video, they could feel the terrifying power displayed by the two in the picture. You mean the aliens are here again? The president swallowed, moved his eyes with difficulty, and looked at Pierce. As the president, he definitely knows a lot of secrets. Captain Marvel fought against the Kree on Earth and fought alongside Nick Fury of S.H.I.E.L.D. These are all sealed in the good file, and those files, as the president of SHIELD's largest employer, he definitely has the authority to read them. In fact, if it weren't for these, the officials of various countries would not have spared no effort to support the establishment of SHIELD. Yes, Your Excellency the President. Pierce did not turn off the projector, but sat up straight with the power displayed by Thor and the Destroyer, and looked at the three presidents. This guy who calls himself Thor, come from the myths and legends of Asgard, the son of the god king Odin. They seem to have come to the Earth thousands of years ago, and now they are coming again. The three people present are all old foxes. So Pierce just briefly introduced the situation and then stated his purpose in a simple and rude way. Your Excellency, the Earth is facing an unprecedented threat, and the power of SHIELD is far from enough. We need bigger support. When he said this, his expression was extremely solemn, as if he would fight aliens for the survival of the Earth at any time. But in his heart, he was extremely excited. Good job, Mutant. Just find any reason to let General Ross go from punishment and continue to be in charge of the Super Soldier Project. SHIELD can take this opportunity to intervene. 3. The people of Asgard are also wonderful. The greater the threat they pose, the more important the existence of SHIELD is. So the countries of the world will have to increase their support, giving people and money. With the superposition of the two phases, the power of SHIELD will become stronger and stronger, and gradually develop into a behemoth that no one can control. Who will this end up being cheaper for? Definitely is Hydra attached to it. Hydra hail. Chapter 74. Charles, you don't know anything about Master Lynn. It has to be said that the sudden appearance of Mora Magtag is too bizarre. So much so that all forces were caught off guard. Even Professor X was shocked when he saw his old lover on the news. He came to the door almost immediately. The door opened, and the old face of Mora Magtag appeared in his sight. One of the two was in a wheelchair, and the other was gray-haired, but they complemented each other somewhat. Speaking of which, Professor X's lower body was paralyzed because Mora shot Magneto, and when Magneto bounced the bullet, he accidentally shot through his lumbar nerve. Charles, Mora's complexion was extremely complicated, but she was not surprised. She seemed to have known for a long time that Professor X would appear. Since you're here, why don't you come in and sit down? She stepped aside to open the door, walked into the kitchen, and made Professor X a cup of coffee. Professor X pushed the wheelchair by himself, watched every movement of his old lover, and unconsciously became a little crazy. Mola, you erased my memory back then, didn't you? Mola handed him the coffee, and her expression returned to normal. It's your student who helped me recover my memory. He also asked me to do this thing. Lynn, despite speculation, Professor X was still extremely shocked when he learned the truth from Mora. Not because Lynn will find Mora and let Mora make a move. During this period of time, he has already learned a lot about Lynn's style and methods. So no matter what Lynn does, he will not be surprised. What really puzzled him was, why would she want to? Professor X is very clear that although Lynn acts a little unscrupulously, he is different from Magneto. He must know the relationship between Mora and himself. Never use the magic of controlling the soul on Chowla. Therefore, Mora's behavior can only be voluntary by herself. Why? Why would an ordinary human spare no effort to help Mutant? Could it be that because of the recovery of memory, he remembered the love affair with himself that ended without a disease? You must be thinking that if I openly speak out for X-Men and Mutant, it is almost equivalent to betraying humanity and my own race, right? Mola seemed to know what he was thinking and said with a smile. Professor X felt weird for a while. This kind of conversation that penetrates people's hearts and grasps the rhythm has always been his specialty. But the moment he felt that Mola's gaze seemed to have a strange insight, seeing his mind clearly. This made him suddenly feel a little uncomfortable. So Mora, can you tell me, how did Lynn convince you? Professor X suppressed the turmoil in his heart, looked at his old lover seriously, and tried not to say the word betrayal. Mora's smile was suddenly a little weird. You haven't changed at all, Charles. She sat down on the sofa. Her movements were steady, and she didn't look like someone in her 70s. Until now, in your subconscious, you still distinguish mutants from humans. Professor X was slightly taken aback. Subconsciously thought of Lynn's theory. Mutants are part of humanity, regardless of each other. You think that I am helping Mutant to speak out, calling for the official creation of the Mutant Affairs Bureau, and making X-Men an official organization with law enforcement powers, which is helping you and other mutants. Mora looked at him quietly, with the same serious expression. Then have you ever thought that the reason why I did this is because the military super soldier plan really threatened the safety of ordinary people and the X-Men, and it is really trustworthy. Once you have law enforcement power, you can better protect the people? What? Professor X froze. This was obviously a reason he hadn't thought of at all. So, as a retiree who has served the people for decades, I want to make our country better and our people better. So this incident happened. Mola said word by word, and finally asked, what is this about betrayal? Professor X opened his mouth, but was speechless. It's been a long time. Is it self-indulgence? What Mora did has nothing to do with Mutant. And just feel that the government should use the power of Mutant to better manage the country and better benefit the people? Charles, you are old. Mora suddenly sighed softly. The limitation of thinking makes you habitually put Mutant on the opposite side of human beings when you think about problems. No wonder Lynn said that you are an excellent principal, but not a qualified leader. Facing the ridicule of his old lover, Professor X could only smile wryly. I know how Lynn convinced you. He took a sip of coffee to hide his embarrassment. But even so, I don't think you will be persuaded so easily. You sympathize with Mutant and are willing to help Mutant change the living environment to a certain extent. It's because of your kindness. But as an ordinary human, and an ordinary person who knows the power of Mutant very well, Mutant gradually gained power and finally surpassed ordinary human beings. It's not what you want to see and accept. He knew Mora just as Mora knew him. In other words, he understands the psychology of ordinary human beings. The more he gets in touch with human thinking through the brain wave strengthening device, the more thoroughly he can see the inferiority of human beings. So he is very clear. Vested interests will never give up power willingly. No matter how kind, noble, and selfless people are. This is the instinct of human beings. So Mora must have other reasons for doing this. Mora was silent. Your eyes are still so sharp. After a long time, her eyes suddenly became complicated, and she asked an irrelevant question softly. Charles, do you really understand your students? Who? Lynn. Professor X didn't keep up with the rhythm for a while, and after thinking for a long time, he finally said, he is a mutant stronger than me and Eric. Do not. Mora shook her head. He is more powerful than you and Magneto combined. And this is the feeling he gave me when he first found me. Today, how powerful he has become, I can't even imagine it. Do you know what time that is? Professor X was slightly taken aback. Mora said to herself, 15 years old. A 15-year-old mutant has shown a desperate strength. Not the strength of a single ability like you and Magneto, but omnipotence. Yes, he gave me the feeling that he is omnipotent, with endless magic, as if facing any situation, he can calmly deal with it. No weakness. As Mora spoke, her voice trembled subconsciously. The most important thing is that he had already planned this scene 3 years ago. At that time, he was still studying at Xavier School, right? What terrible wisdom is this? Professor X's heart trembled violently. 3 years ago. Lynn actually found Mora 3 years ago. As early as 3 years ago, he had planted the seeds for this incident. Professor X feels that he has paid enough attention to Lynn. As long as the means are not too outrageous, he can even ignore it completely and let Lynn toss about. But now it seems that what Mola said is not wrong at all. For Lynn, a student, I may really know nothing. Think about you and Magneto. After decades of hard work, the end result is that one is a prisoner and the other is trapped in a school. Where's Lynn? How long after he graduated? The X-Men are about to have law enforcement powers, and Xavier School has opened its enrollment. Mutant is about to walk in the sun openly at this moment. Mora's voice seemed to come from outside the sky. Charles, this is God bless Mutant. With such a monster appearing in the mutant group, it is impossible for human officials to suppress him, and it is impossible to hold the power of this world firmly in their hands like before. If I don't help, he will pick it up by himself. If he also resorts to violence like Magneto, it will be a disaster for mankind. Speaking of this, Professor X has fully understood why Mora helped Lynn. She is scared, afraid that Lynn really did the same thing as Magneto, with more aggressive, more violent tactics. Instead, she simply helped Mutant to gain the power and status it deserved. At least for now, Lynn has been acting in the game rules despite frequent tricks. This is a good thing for humans. Wrong, Professor X was about to sigh, when he suddenly thought of something. His eyes flashed brightly. Mola, Lynn is indeed doing better than me, but he only started doing these things recently. 3 years ago. Are you sure that besides his formidable strength, he has even more terrifying means? Obviously, something must have happened 3 years ago. That's why Mora is willing to do things for Lynn. Thinking of this, Professor X's eyes showed guilt. Mola, I'm sorry. Psychic ability activates instantly. Want to spy on Mora's true thoughts. But at the moment, Professor X's complexion suddenly changed drastically. And at the moment his mental fluctuations invaded Mora's brain, a pale golden light quietly appeared, forming a spiritual shield, blocking his brain waves. Charles, you are still as self-righteous as before, and you want to enter my brain without my consent. Mora spoke coldly. A strange wooden stick in the shape of a branch appeared in her hand, and with a light swipe across the air, a blazing flame appeared between the two of them out of thin air. Professor X looked at her like a ghost. Mola, in this situation, why didn't he understand what happened a year ago? This girl is clearly magic. Lynn taught Mora magic. Isn't that his super ability? How can others learn? The impact of this scene was so great that Professor X lost his composure like never before. If magic can be mastered through learning, doesn't that mean that those Delta-level mutants with weak super abilities in Lynn's plan can actually master powerful power? He wants to implement the magic system in the mutant group. That's the real heart of his plan to save Mutant. You guessed it right. As if knowing what Professor X was thinking, Mora nodded, with a devout look of reverence and awe on her face. I am Master Lynn's apprentice, and he is my magic mentor. Professor X gasped. Great Gift Crab Special. Chapter 75. The candidate for the first director. When Professor X left Mora's house, he was still in a daze. There are too many questions in his mind. Did Lynn only teach Mora magic? Why is that female judge named Kate Mara willing to accept Mora's lawsuit? Is she a Delta-class mutant in hiding? Or is she an ordinary person who, like Mora, is Lynn's magic apprentice? BA, are Lynn's magic apprentices just the two of them? If not, does it mean that besides Xavier Academy and X-Men, Lynn also controls a hidden magical power? How much preparation did this student do? Ugh, the chaotic thoughts hit Professor X's heart like a turbulent tide. He suddenly panicked and let Lynn do it. Isn't it a little too hasty? I just want to change the living environment of Mutant. But looking at the current situation, this student of mine, it seems to want to overturn the whole world. With this in mind, Professor X can't wait to find Lynn immediately and have a good chat. But he pondered for a long time, finally chose to give up. In any case, things are indeed moving in a direction that is beneficial to Mutant, and I have no reason at all to sing against Lynn at this time. And the most important thing is, TLF can't change Lynn's mind at all. There is no power to change his mind anymore. Today, Lynn's prestige in Xavier Academy and even X-Men is no less than her own. Just as Morris said, she's already old. The present and future of Mutant belong to Lynn. Perhaps I am really more suitable to be a principal. This idea suddenly appeared in my mind. The night was getting darker and the breeze was blowing. Professor X looked up at the sky and let out a heavy sigh of relief. There was a sudden screeching sound of brakes on the street ahead, and before the car door was opened, a deep voice came to my ears. "Charles, I am from S.H.I.E.L.D." The voice stopped abruptly. Professor X's powerful mind ability was activated, and everyone's thinking stopped. By the time they woke up, several minutes had passed. The figure of Professor X has also disappeared. Shit. Nick Fury's face was instantly gloomy. Ever since Mora MacTag appeared on TV, S.H.I.E.L.D. was on the lookout for the first time, betting that Professor X would come to visit her young love interest. Facts have proved that he was half right. But Professor X's actions undoubtedly show that this Dove mutant leader has good intentions for human beings. There is absolutely no point in communicating with S.H.I.E.L.D. This was unimaginable before. You know, Professor X is a well-known good guy, not only in S.H.I.E.L.D., but also in many secret departments such as CIA and FBI. There are people who know of his existence and have contacted each other many times, but never once was turned away. This is not a good sign. I don't believe it. I can't find a new address of Xavier's school. Nick Fury frowned and finally closed the car door firmly and ordered his subordinates. "Give me 24 hours to monitor the ruins of the Xavier Manor. No matter who has been there, you must find out all 18 generations of ancestors." "Understood, boss." Phil Coulson, who had just returned from the desert in the southwest, nodded tactfully. Back at the academy, Professor X locked himself in the office. The TV channel is always locked on Global Daily. Ever since they tasted the sweetness of Mutants traffic, Global Daily has never missed any mutant-related news. As long as there is definite news about the Mutant Affairs Bureau, they will be the first to report it. What surprised Professor X was that this time, the efficiency of the White House was unexpectedly fast. Just 2 days later, the White House announced to the public that the Mutant Affairs Bureau was formally established and the X-Men belonged to it, officially becoming an official organization with law enforcement powers. At the same time, General Ross was demoted and the Super Soldier program was suspended. This is not only an explanation to the public, but also a comfort to the official insiders. But Professor X is very clear that this is just an illusion to confuse ordinary people. After this incident, General Ross's Super Soldier plan will not stop, but will get more rewards. But anyway, Lynn's goal has been achieved. From this day on, Mutant officially entered the official power system. This is certainly a huge amount of victory. However, it is not so easy to achieve this victory, because when the White House announced the establishment of the Mutant Affairs Bureau, it also issued another statement, welcoming all mutants to compete for the position of the first director. Competition for? Professor X couldn't help rubbing his eyebrows. Eric is out of prison. Once he knows the news, he will definitely. In the mutant group, There has never been a shortage of ambitious people like Magneto. This statement from the White House makes it clear that if Mutant wants to fight to the death, it is best to kill each other. Don't worry, Professor. Lynn's voice suddenly sounded, and the next moment, with a boo, he appeared in the office with Apparition. This position of Director General will only be ours. For his appearance, Teacher X was not surprised this time. In fact, he was waiting for Lynn. He looked at the student he was most proud of now, and possibly in his entire principal career, with burning eyes, and asked, "Lynn, do you want to take on the position of director personally? Mutant can have such a victory today. It all depends on Lynn strategizing." But to this day, he has never stepped onto the stage. Perhaps he was waiting for such an opportunity. I don't want to deal with those politicians all the time. Lynn shook her head without hesitation. He definitely will be on stage, but not now. But on a more important occasion. That day is not far away. Professor X said in surprise. X-Men will belong to this department from now on. Besides you, who can take on this important task? Do you want me, an old man, to go? Don't make trouble, Professor. Zero looking for flowers. Lynn looked at him with a smile. You should honestly be the principal in the college. This is more suitable for you. Joke? If you really want this good old man to be the chief, you can't be bullied by those politicians. Mutants still think about it? That. Professor X was a little embarrassed and quickly said, Hank McCoy? He was originally a researcher of the CIA, and he has been in touch with human officials since then. The original Mutant Affairs Department was appointed as the director of the department. He's talking about the Beast, the rare top talent in Mutant. Not only has a super high IQ, but also is proficient in various professional knowledge, such as human evolutionary biology, genetics, biochemistry, etc., and has even set foot in other scientific fields and can help X-Men manufacture weapons and equipment. Known as one of the smartest people on Earth, the knowledge mastered by Dr. Hank is the most precious wealth of the mutant group. Letting him deal with those politicians all day is undoubtedly a blasphemy against that knowledge. Lynn still shook her head. In comparison, asking him to return to the college as a professor can give full play to his value. Professor X got it. Lynn obviously has already made arrangements for the director's position. Cut out, Lynn. He didn't say any more. With a look of curiosity on his face, he asked directly, Who are you going to let be the director of the Mutant Affairs Bureau? You know it, Professor. Lynn didn't intend to hide anything. She smiled and said, Then, please allow me to introduce to you the first director of the Mutant Affairs Bureau, Ms. Emma Frost. The voice fell, and the door of the office was slowly pushed open. A graceful and enchanting figure walked in with lotus steps. Long time no see, Charles. White Queen Emma Frost's delicate and fair face, with a bright smile, fell into Professor X's eyes with a radiant look. Professor X's pupils shrunk slightly, and his expression changed uncontrollably. Even if he is extremely intelligent and profound, how could he have thought that the first director Lynn chose would be the White Queen? But after thinking about it, he actually thought it was very suitable. This woman is the third founder of Hellfire Club, and Hellfire Club brings together the richest and most powerful people in the world, as well as countless social elites, and its influence spreads all over the world. And those people, all named after Black King Sebastian Shaw and the core group headed by the White Queen, were invited. Therefore, White Queen is undoubtedly very good at dealing with high society. Such a person is going to be the director of the Mutant Affairs Bureau. Simply the perfect candidate. The only problem is that the White Queen was once our enemy. As Professor X said, he saw a White Queen walking to Lynn with a smile on her face, raised her head, and gave Lynn a sweet kiss. I can't say anything after that. And you, Lynn? He could only change the subject in embarrassment. The director's position has been handed over to someone else. What are you going to do next? Lynn definitely's answer. Definitely welcome freshmen, professors also. Chapter 76. The opening ceremony in the huge pit. On the night of the official announcement of the establishment of the Mutant Bureau, cars appeared outside the huge pit where the original Xavier Manor was located. These cars came from all directions, but without exception they all turned off the lights. Drive carefully in Proxima Midnight. It seems that I am afraid that others will find out. After the engine was turned off, none of the car doors were opened, just like ghosts, silently observing the huge pit in front of them. And if something wrong happened, they would immediately start the car and leave as quickly as possible. Such a scene was naturally discovered by the spying shield. Report to the mothership immediately. There's a situation in Xavier Manor. Phil Coulson, who was in charge of monitoring, reported it immediately. Looking at the cars that appeared one after another on the surveillance screen, his expression became more and more unbelievable. Great gift crab special. There is such a mutant in just one twisted contract. There are more and more cars outside the huge crater, scattered all around, slowly showing signs of surrounding the huge crater. And farther away, there are still more vehicles slowly approaching. Looking at this posture, there are hundreds or even thousands of them. Probably more. Not just mutants living in Twist City. Phil Coulson quickly understood. Since the news of Xavier's school's open enrollment spread, many mutants scattered all over the world must have secretly come to negotiate, but they have been secretly observing, waiting, and hesitation. It was not until today that the Mutant Affairs Bureau was established that we finally made up our minds. In fact, at the beginning, they wanted to block the surrounding land, but was stopped by S.H.I.E.L.D. Nick Fury desperately wanted to get in touch with Xavier's school. He knew very well that since the 230 information of the new Xavier School's public enrollment contained the address of Xavier's Manor, as long as students came to sign up, Xavier's School would someone is bound to show up. For this reason, he even sent someone disguised as a mutant try to lure the snake out of the hole. It's not difficult. SHIELD is full of talents, and there are many agents with super abilities under its command. The Ghost and Ant Man 2 was once recruited by SHIELD as an agent, however. To Nick Fury's surprise, Xavier's School turned a blind eye to this at all, as if the school address they left at that time was just a joke with the whole world. It's clear that the enrollment is open, but it doesn't accept students. What the hell is this? Everyone in SHIELD can't understand this question. At this moment, however, Phil Coulson understood. Xavier's School has been waiting for this opportunity. The purpose of releasing the enrollment information in advance is to allow more time for mutants all over the world to react. Then stimulate these mutants through the news of the establishment of the Mutant Affairs Bureau. Gather here. He couldn't help but take a deep breath. This series of events turned out to be premeditated. Every step was clearly planned, and all achieved the best results. What kind of character appeared in Xavier's School? And today, how many mutants will sign up? Time passed slowly. There are more and more cars on the surveillance screen. Those mutants hidden in the car were very cautious and patient. Even at this time, no one got out of the car to check the situation, and no one even opened the windows to communicate. Everyone is waiting tacitly. Phil Coulson knew very well that if the waiting this time didn't result, the reputation accumulated by Xavier's School during this period would collapse in an instant. After these mutants left, they would never come back again. Therefore, the Academy will definitely respond tonight. Thinking of this, with his psychological quality, he couldn't help becoming a little anxious and contacted Nick Fury again. "Boss, where are you?" "5 minutes. Nick Fury obviously knew the urgency of the matter and responded simply and directly. Phil Coulson looked up at his watch. It is already 12 o'clock in the morning. In the monitoring screen, there is no longer a car. But I don't know why, there is still nothing unusual around the huge pit, and there is not even a single X-Men appearing on the scene. Until Nick Fury's Quinjet roars in. Boom! Suddenly, a glaring red beam of light rushed out of the huge black crater, as if piercing through the heavens and the earth, illuminating a few kilometers around as if it were daytime. Crap, they're waiting for the boss. Phil Coulson's eyes widened suddenly, and after a second of stupefaction, he picked up the guy and called out to his subordinates. Quick, quick! Control the scene, but don't shoot without orders. A group of well-trained SHIELD agents rushed out of the underground bases hidden around the huge pit and surrounded them from all directions. At the same time, the SHIELD special vehicles on standby, further away, also made roaring engine sounds. The originally silent night was suddenly broken by the noise. Those mutants hiding in the car heard the movement. Except for a small number of people who did not move, Everyone else subconsciously started the car and was about to flee from this place. After many years of hiding, when they faced official forces, their first reaction was to run away. However, this time, a voice suddenly sounded in their ears at the same time. "Don't be nervous. Here, no one can hurt you." This voice seems to have a strange magic power, which makes people calm down unconsciously and give people a sense of security that cannot be described in words. All the mutants stopped when they heard the words. Then, through the front glass of the car, they saw the beam of light in the giant pit trembling slightly, scattered into red fireballs the size of a basketball file, and floated to all parts of the pit. Wow! Hundreds of fireballs sank suddenly and fell into the huge crater. With the sound of roaring, the 3-kilometer-long huge crater burst into flames. It looked like a volcano that was about to erupt at any time. In the flames, Lynn's figure slowly appeared. "Welcome, incoming students." He was suspended in the air, his figure was swayed, and he was divided into 4, stepping on the flames and walking slowly in 4 directions. "I am the honorary principal of the new Xavier School, and also your senior Lynn. I have been waiting here for a long time." His voice was not loud, but it was clearly transmitted into a car. The doors opened one after another. Mutants came out one by one. These people include men and women, old and young, and even many teenagers. With the support of their parents, they walked slowly to the edge of the huge pit. Their eyes were nervous, restless, but mixed with a glimmer of hope. All looked straight at Lynn. All 4 Lynns were smiling and speaking at the same time. "I know, you came here today. Each of you paid huge amounts of courage because you have never really lived in the sun. And once your identity is exposed, the consequences are unpredictable. It may usher in the arrest of the official forces, maybe facing malicious persecution. You may also be targeted by some ambitious guys who covet your super abilities, and your life will never be peaceful again." His pace stopped 3 meters away from the edge of the huge pit, and he looked around everyone in the audience with calm and deep eyes. "As a senior, what I want to tell you is that all this is over. Starting today, as a student of Synopsis College, you will be able to walk freely in the sun. You can live and study comfortably. You can ignore any strange eyes and malice. And you can completely say goodbye to the past days of hiding. After you graduate and perfectly master your super abilities and all kinds of knowledge you're interested in, you can freely choose the jobs you want, chase your dreams wantonly, and start your own family openly. The most important thing is that you can put on your face and say to all those who reject, hostile, and persecute you, mutants never were monsters. We are the evolution of humanity. Human beings step on the ground and look up at the stars. We are the future. More hope." With the blazing flames under his feet, Lynn gave a special opening speech to all the students who came to sign up. When his voice fell, the quiet needle drop could be heard at the scene. All mutants are captivated by the picture he describes. As mutants, some of them can only hide in Tibet and live a precarious life. Some of them hide better or are protected by their parents from being discovered. And they're also in constant fear that one day they will be kicked into the house. This kind of dark life, there is no hope at all. But at this moment, the open enrollment of Xavier's school, like a bright light in the dark night, suddenly illuminated another completely different path for their future. Only then did they realize that they had a chance to get rid of the shadows and live in the sunshine with integrity. So, despite the hesitation and doubts, after all, they chose to take that step. Finally came here. At this moment, a light called hope shone in everyone's eyes. They looked at Lynn, who was talking in the flames, and seemed to see their future self. "Mom, could I be like Senior Lynn in the future?" A little boy who was only 8 or 9 years old suddenly murmured something. "Zero, his parents are just ordinary people, and they finally brought their son to New York after going through a lot of hardships, and they were exhausted physically and mentally along the way." The two looked at each other when they heard the voice, suddenly burst into tears. "Yes, my little Carl, you can definitely become the greatest mutant." The same emotion spread among many underage mutant families. Seeing this scene, those adult mutants who have been in exile for many years and who have experienced hardships and dangers, can't help but feel a little sad. But they are not ruled by sensibility. A man wearing a jacket looked at Lynn and said, Xavier School really has no age limit for enrolling students this time? I'm almost 30 years old. Can I still go to school? You can use your real body to talk to me, sir. Lynn glanced at him and said with a smile, Xavier School is divided into elementary school, middle school, and university. To gain useful knowledge. Definitely, if you pass the examination, you can also choose to become a teacher of the academy. The pupils in the man's eyes narrowed slightly. Immediately afterwards, under the surprised eyes of other people, the doors of several cars nearby were opened one after another, and people exactly like him came out of them. After the 6 people stand together, they integrate into one like cells. Multiple man, you are so powerful. You actually saw through my duplication at a glance. He looked at Lynn with excitement in his eyes. My name is James Madrock, and I want to join Xavier's school. Definitely welcome. Lynn ordered nod. As the senior who welcomes the freshman, his task today is obviously to answer questions for the freshmen. The mirror image in the West also encountered almost the same situation. Mr. Lynn, the person who spoke was a young man of 18 or 19 years old, extremely handsome in appearance and in good shape. But he seemed a little uneasy, and he seemed to have some hesitation. Words came to my lips, but I couldn't say them. Mr. Warren Worthington. Lynn's mirror image looked at him and said lightly, You mean to say that your father, as the person in charge of the Warthen laboratory, has a deep cooperation with the government and has been using Mutant as an experimental laboratory? As his son, you will not be rejected by the Academy, will you? What? The young man opened his mouth wide in shock, never expecting that Lynn knew his identity. Yes, he is Angel, future X-Men. In the timeline after the restart, it was transformed into one of the 4 Knights by Apocalypse. Don't worry, Mr. Worthington. The door of Xavier's school is always open to all kind-hearted mutants on 5.9. You can enroll with complete peace of mind. Lynn said indifferently, If you are unhappy in the Academy, you can drop out at any time, and I promise you, no one will stop you. This is also to let other mutants know that the Academy will not force them to stay. Feel free to leave whenever you want. Real. Angel was extremely excited when he heard the words. A pair of white wings spread out from behind. It caused bursts of exclamation. On the south side, the one who asked questions to the mirror image Lynn was a red-haired girl with a graceful figure, youthful beauty, and she seemed to be of Asian descent. My name is Clarice Ferguson, and I just want to know one thing. Can Xavier's school really protect us students? She pointed to the huge crater of flames under Lynn's feet, her eyes full of distrust. Until now, we haven't even seen the shadow of the Academy. So it must be a scam bar. This question is obviously the most concerned about by the vast majority of people present. Almost at the same time, someone from the crowd in the east raised it. Just by comparison, this green-haired girl is much simpler and rougher. We're all surrounded. She pointed to the back, the Quinjet that had already landed, and the SHILD agents roaring over, with a sneer on her face. Are you going to continue talking nonsense here? Lynn just smiled slightly at this. People from S.H.I.E.L.D. are the audience I specially invited to attend the opening ceremony. Nick Fury, who was walking quickly, just heard this sentence. His complexion instantly turned pale. Chapter 77. This jump from hiding in the dark to walking in the light. Mr. Lynn, SHILD apparently installed listening equipment nearby, so Nick Fury heard Lynn introduce herself. He walked towards Lynn in a one-eyed windbreaker, and the gloomy look on his face disappeared in an instant, replaced by a smile on his face. It will be our honor to participate in the opening ceremony of Xavier's school. Definitely. The famous director Nick Fury came to watch the ceremony. Principal Charles must be very happy. Lynn laughs too. The two who have fought against each other many times finally saw each other's true face on such an occasion. Lynn's smile comes from the heart. Nick Fury's happiness isn't faking either. After a recent period of observation, he is indeed becoming more and more afraid of Xavier's school. But it's just that. The X-Men are not as aggressive as Magneto, and they will launch wars against humans at every turn. So it never occurred to him to deal with Mutant. Even when Mutant exposed General Ross, SHIELD took advantage of the opportunity to intervene in the super soldier plan and gained a lot of benefits. So, whether it was outside Mora's house last time or this time at the start of school, Nick Fury has only one purpose. Get in touch with Xavier's school. Have a nice chat with Charles. You want to know what these people are doing. Mr. Lynn knows me. Nick Fury looked at Lynn with great interest. For such an important matter as the opening ceremony, Charles actually entrusted you with the responsibility. It can be seen that Mr. Lynn, the honorary principal, is very unusual in Xavier's school. Thanks to the principal's trust, Lynn also looked at him with great interest, turning a blind eye to the group of SHIELD agents behind him. Besides, this is just for welcoming new students. The opening ceremony will definitely be held in the academy. Oh, Nick Fury narrowed his eyes slightly. Then, can I trouble Mr. Lynn to lead the way? He really wanted to know that there were at least 1,000 mutants here, and what method Xavier's school would use to bring them all to the academy. All the mutants present also wanted to know this question. Lynn didn't keep them waiting. The 4 mirror images of East, West, North, South, and duplication are suddenly merged into one. He stood in the middle of the huge flame pit and said to all the mutants around him, "Jump down. I'll take you to the academy." As if in response to his words, the flames under his feet suddenly shot up, reflecting terrified faces. Everyone looked at Lynn in disbelief. "Jump!" The green-haired Lorna Dane parted her lips slightly and thought she was having auditory hallucinations. She had been in the chat room since she was a child, and at the age of 15 or 16, she dared to go into the gangster's lair alone. How can you not be so courageous? But let her jump into this huge flame pit. She still couldn't help swallowing, and a touch of fear appeared in her eyes. Even if she knew, there might be another mystery in it. The flames in front of me are really scary, and the huge pit below is too deep. As the flames rose, she could clearly feel the terrifying heat wave, and her vision became blurred. With such a high temperature and such a deep pit, unless she was immune to the flames, she would definitely die if she jumped into it. There is great terror between life and death. It's not about courage. It is the deepest instinct of biological genes. This is the college's assessment of freshmen. In the distorted and blurred flames, Lynn's voice seemed to come from hell. Jump down, and you'll get the real admission qualifications. If you don't jump, you can go back the same way. The voice fell, and the sun and the moon were quiet. The mutants looked at each other, and they could all see the fear in the eyes of the people around them. The parents of those mutant children were already pale. Nick Fury's complexion also changed slightly. Under normal circumstances, he would definitely not dare to jump, but he is also very clear that Xavier's school will spend a lot of time and effort, and it is impossible to kill all the students who come to sign up, so this huge flame pit is 100% just a test. But here lies the problem. Knowing it's the test and actually jumping in, it's two different things. What if this is a trap? What if you jump into it and get burned directly to fly ash? Psychological test. In Nick Fury's mind, this idea involuntarily appeared, and he felt as disgusted as eating a fly. What the hell? Is this recruiting students or recruiting the army? Enrollment is open to the public, and they're still picking people. Simply outrageous. The raging flames seemed to be burning endlessly, and at this moment, time seemed to stop moving forward. The mutants looked at each other. No one dared to take the first step. Lynn was not in a hurry and watched quietly. I don't know how long it has been. His eyes moved slightly, and in the crowd on the west side of the giant pit, a figure suddenly roared boldly, then rushed to the edge of the giant pit and completed a shocking leap amidst countless shocked gazes. It was Angel Warren Worthington. I'm not a monster. Amidst the roar, Worthington flapped his wings instinctively, as if he wanted to create a gust of wind to blow the flames away from his body. Lynn smiled. Without him needing to make a move, the flames around Worthington suddenly opened up, turning into a flame channel, and the body wrapping him quickly disappeared. Fine. This scene obviously gave other people huge amounts of comfort, and countless people's eyes lit up. To the east, Polaris Lorna Dane flicked her hair and rushed out without any hesitation. I want to see what's so special about the mysterious Xavier school. On the south side, Clarice Flicker took a deep breath and jumped out. God bless. To the north, multiple man James Madrock is about to charge out. A figure has already passed him and rushed out. If you are afraid of death, don't block the way. Kindness. Multiple man's complexion changed drastically. That figure turned out to be a woman. And at first glance, it was a super ability in terms of speed. It was like a whirlwind whistling. He didn't even see the others back. Shit. He cursed and rushed out quickly. In an instant, figures around the giant pit jumped down like dumplings, and then were swallowed by the flame channel, occasionally accompanied by a roar. Haha, this academy is really interesting. Don't be a mutant if you're afraid of death. Is this the first lesson the academy taught us? Fear only makes me stronger. I can't wait to see what the academy looks like. Haha, Logan, an old friend is looking for you. This is the voice of Gambit's Remy LeBeau, a former friend of Wolverine's. At the beginning, the mutants just jumped off scatteredly. As more and more people rushed out, the remaining people became obviously anxious. One by one, they tried their best to overcome the fear in their hearts and join the fire-jumping army. Soon, the mutant teenagers who were held tightly by their parents couldn't help it either. Mom, I'm bound to be a great mutant, right? The teenager Carl looked up at his parents, and courage gradually appeared on his immature face. His parents' eyes were full of fear, but after glancing at their son, the couple looked at each other again, with firmness and determination appearing on their faces at the same time. Honey, we are with you. While speaking, the two held Carl's hand, one left and one right, and rushed into the flames at the same time. Lynn captured this scene clearly. The smile on his face grew brighter. Mutant, who has come forth in abundance. Is there any reason why he can't rise? Starting from Carl, one after another mutant teenagers seem to have gained courage, and there is no longer only fear in their eyes, but a more determined light. Taking the family as a unit, they leaped high one after another. Seeing this scene, Phil Coulson and other SHILD agents couldn't help showing shock. Such a young child. Even if he knows that the flames won't hurt him, he shouldn't dare to jump, right? Why? Everyone looked at each other in blank dismay, completely confused. Responding to them was Nick Fury's deep voice. Because of Xavier School's admissions, let all the mutants walk under the sun. They are for freedom. When Nick Fury said this, he didn't even know how he was feeling. With his heart as hard as iron, at this moment, he couldn't help feeling a little admiration for these young mutants. Such a unique welcome ceremony. These mutants should be remembered for life, right? This jump, rather than giving them the courage to overcome their fears, rather say, help them break the shackles of invisible in their hearts. From this jump, they completed the soul metamorphosis from hiding in the dark to walking in the light. This, Lynn, it's horrible. While thinking about it, Nick Fury's one-eyed, I locked on the figure in the center of the flames, and a flash of understanding suddenly appeared in his heart. Perhaps he is the real mastermind of this recent series of events. Lynn 830 doesn't use mind magic, so definitely has no idea what Nick Fury is thinking at the moment. His attention has been on the remaining students. It's a pity for him that, after all, there are still people who dare not dance. Uggy sighed softly, divided his figure into four again, and walked to the edge of the huge pit. So, even though you know that the flame is a transmission channel, you still dare not jump? Around the huge pit, there are about 70 or 80 people left. There are both adult mutants, as well as mutant children and their parents. These people all turn pale, looking at the raging flames under Lynn's feet, eager to try 1 second, and showing fear in the next second, swallowing with difficulty. Senior, I really want to enroll. Can you take me with you? A young mutant in his 20s looked at Lynn courageously. I am born afraid of fire. As long as I'm not allowed to jump into this fire pit, I am willing to do anything. Senior, trust me, others also begged for mercy. Some of the mutant teenagers even cried and begged. The 4 mirror images of Lynn shook their heads without hesitation. Let's go back. They spoke at the same time, without any ripples on their calm water faces. After you go back, be an ordinary person with peace of mind. The world of mutant is not suitable for you. As soon as the words fell, the flames in the huge pit under their feet suddenly shrank rapidly from the surroundings to the center. For just a split second, even if these remaining mutants jump again, they won't be able to touch the flames. In other words, they lose their eligibility for admission. Senior, ignoring the pleadings of these people, Lynn manipulated the flames to condense into shape, which instantly turned into a road of flames and spread to Nick Fury. Director Nick Fury, please. He smiled slightly and glanced at Phil Coulson and others behind Nick Fury. If you want, everyone can be together. No, Phil Coulson, just come with me. Nick Fury shook his head without hesitation. I really want to bring a large group of people fully armed to attend the opening ceremony of college. He SHILD really can't afford to lose that person. Dignified Chief, don't you want to lose face? Chapter 78, 5 Principles. Here comes Magneto. Passing through the end of the flame passage, Nick Fury and Phil Coulson only felt a change of light and shadow in front of them, and they appeared in another world. Really, what appeared in front of my eyes was the Xavier Manor that disappeared at the beginning. At this moment, the place where the two are standing is the pond in the manor. It is not large in size, but it is obviously affected by a strange force. Under their feet is a solid water column, and a series of water-condensed stairs extend out, connecting on the shore. The mutants who came in first have all walked down the steps and stood bustling on the playground by the shore. What kind of power is this? Nick Fury's one eye narrowed slightly. 1 second, they were still in the raging flames, but the next second they were standing firmly on the water waves, which made him feel quite bad, because he didn't see which mutant was manipulating the water flow. This is slightly different from the mutant in his impression. He turned his eyes and was slightly startled, but he didn't see Professor X, Wolverine, and others, nor did he see any staff of the Academy. Please take a seat. Lynn said politely, and a separate water flow ladder appeared quietly, leading to the open space on the west side of the pond. Nick Fury and Phil Coulson looked at each other and walked over in silence. While walking, the former asked in a low voice as if nothing had happened. Phil Coulson, where is our location? I don't know, boss. Phil Coulson quickly responded. There seems to be a weird force here that has isolated our signal, but one thing is for sure. We are far away from where we were just now. A long way. Nick Fury's complexion didn't change at all. Obviously expected. He just sighed imperceptibly. Teleportation across space. It's fine if you can teleport people. They actually move the entire Xavier Academy here. Phil Coulson had nothing to say about that. Continue to observe. Nick Fury instantly suppressed his emotions and said solemnly, our mission today is to see what kind of power this new Xavier school holds. Clear. Phil Coulson nodded slightly. When the two walked down the stairs, they saw that there was nothing in the open space. They were about to speak when Lynn's voice came from their ears again. Everyone, please take your seats. As if she couldn't follow her words, just as Lynn's voice fell, 10 huge amounts of long tables and chairs appeared out of nowhere in front of the freshmen. The same goes for Nick Fury and Phil Coulson. Wow! The eyes of the freshmen widened in surprise. Lynn's voice spread again. After waiting all night, everyone must be hungry. Let's eat something first. The opening ceremony will start soon. Roast beef, roast chicken, fried sausages, stews, lamb chops. A series of steaming dishes suddenly appeared on the long table, and the freshmen who watched were drooling. They even saw pudding and other desserts, as well as various drinks on the table. You're welcome. This is your first meal after school. Please be sure to eat happily. If Lynn had a long white beard, was wearing a white necromancer robe, and a pair of half-moon glasses, then his image at the moment would definitely match that of an old man named Dumbledore. He raised his left hand with a smile and signaled to the group of freshmen, definitely, parents, please don't be restrained. The new Xavier School welcomes the families of all students. All the freshmen and their parents looked at each other in blank dismay. Then he sat down at the dining table without any scruples and began to feast on it. After waiting outside the giant pit all night, they were already hungry. Nick Fury and Phil Coulson at a separate table watched this scene silently. The latter carefully stretched out his hand, picked up a fried sausage, and was about to put it into his mouth when he suddenly felt the summer chill. He paused, then turned to look at his superior. "Boss, I haven't had dinner yet." Nick Fury sighed silently. "It's all here, let's eat." Overjoyed, Phil Coulson, who got permission, ate the sausage in one bite. Delicious. The sound of infinite satisfaction reached Nick Fury's ears, and he suddenly had the urge to shoot this subordinate. On the surface of the lake, Lynn's mouth curved slightly. "While everyone is eating, please allow me to introduce the teachers of the new Xavier School to you." He opened his mouth slowly. His voice was like a bell and spread throughout the audience. "First of all, it is definitely known to everyone that the founder of our new Xavier School, who spent all his wealth to provide a safe place for mutant in distress, Principal Charles Xavier." Boom! A wave suddenly exploded from the calm lake. Holding Professor X's wheelchair, it froze in midair. There was a trace of helplessness on his face, but he still greeted the freshman with a smile. "Welcome." Big bells and whistles. There was a sneer on Nick Fury's face, obviously disdainful of the way Lynn arranged the opening. Not so with freshmen. They definitely knew Professor X, and they were full of respect for this X-Men leader. Seeing this scene, they all put down their food and applauded vigorously. Lynn raised her right hand, and another wave surged. The next one is the teacher of the extraordinary course, Professor Kin Gray. Kin Gray, who looks like a royal sister, won louder applause than Professor X. And then, the teacher of the fighting class, Professor Logan. Wolverine, who is extremely popular on the internet, blew up the audience as soon as she appeared on the stage. Nick Fury's ears hurt from the applause. Lynn continued to introduce. Next is Professor Scott Summers, Professor Orolo, Professor Hank McCoy Beast, Professor Sean Cassidy Kraken. After bursts of applause, the X-Men finally came to an end, and Lynn even took the trouble to introduce the glorious deeds of each of them. The sneer on Nick Fury's face faded quickly. He could see that Lynn was not doing useless work, but using this grand appearance method to subtly improve the student's confidence in the college. This is how a sense of belonging slowly grows. So, Lynn's introduction didn't end there. He put down his right hand and raised his left finger to point to the lake on the left. "The next thing I will introduce to you is the first vice principal of the college. Some of you may have heard his name, and some of you have admired him for a long time. There are people who are afraid of him, but please don't worry. From today onwards, he will only be the vice principal and professor of our new Xavier School. Let us please Mr. Eric Lyncher." This time, no water waves exploded. Instead, a series of steel bars suddenly flew from the sky. Plunged into the water surface. Hundreds of steel bars gathered together vertically, forming a steel pillar. Magneto stepped on a piece of iron and flew slowly under the eyes of everyone. "Take a step forward and stand on the iron pillar." Magneto. As expected, there were bursts of exclamations from the crowd. Obviously, Magneto's name was widely spread among the mutant group. At the same time, Professor X's eyes widened suddenly, and he looked at Magneto in disbelief. "Eric, one thing to say, he is not surprised. Lynn will invite Magneto to the college as a professor. No matter what this student does, he has been able to accept it calmly." What really surprised him was that Magneto actually came. Is this still the Magneto, in my impression? The rebellious Magneto who vowed to wipe out all humans and let mutant completely rule the world? How have you changed a college vice principal, you wish? FK. On the other side, Nick Fury also cursed secretly at the same time. He definitely knew the news about Wansi prison and had been sending people to track down Magneto's whereabouts, but he never thought that Magneto would appear here. The Mutant Brotherhood and the X-Men are sworn enemies. Professor X sent Magneto to prison with his own hands. How come? How can we abandon the past and cooperate? Even if the friendship between the two is very complicated, and they actually have an extraordinary friendship with each other, it is just a personal friendship, and the two mutant leaders with completely different ideas are absolutely free. Let's move forward hand in hand. This means that Magneto has given up on the philosophy he has held on to all his life. It is precisely because of knowing too much that Nick Fury's shock at the moment is far stronger than that of any mutant present. He subconsciously looked at Professor X, only to find that the other's face, of Wong's, was also full of astonishment. Suddenly, an incredible idea popped into my mind. Charles doesn't know about this. Magneto joins Xavier's school with another secret. What is the reason? Or who is it? The one-eyed eyes turned unconsciously and quietly locked onto the figure in the center of the lake. Nick Fury's soul seemed to tremble violently. It's him! It's him! The uproar did not last long. Magneto's serious eyes scanned the audience, and all the freshmen unconsciously quieted down. Starting today, I will be your vice president and adjunct professor. There was an undisguised sneer on the old and majestic face. Lynn said that I am old, and you are the future of mutant. I don't know if he's right or not, so if you don't study hard, I will punish you mercilessly, although these punishments are all within the scope allowed by the school regulations. But I assure you, you will never be willing to experience even just one of them. Stern attitude, old-fashioned admonition, coupled with the great reputation of Megatron Mutant Group. There is a demeanor of the dean. All the freshmen were silent. This is a ruthless person who almost killed all humans. Chapter 79, Nick Fury. FK. 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 Vice Principal Eric, don't scare our freshmen. Lynn's voice spread in a timely manner, making people feel like a spring breeze. He was quite satisfied with Magneto's dean's attitude, but he didn't show it on the surface. Instead, he introduced, as you can see, besides teaching, Vice President Eric is mainly responsible for the discipline of the college. He will urge all students to study hard and graduate smoothly in the future. Hearing this sentence, Professor X's eyebrows trembled slightly. He immediately understood what Lynn meant. For the new Xavier school, his previous management methods were too gentle and loose. In contrast, Magneto's ruthlessness and sternness undoubtedly stimulated the motivation of the students. Even if this motivation is passive, the two complement each other and complement each other to activate the vitality of the entire college. Charles, behind them, the gazes of Phoenix and Storm all came together. This matter. Compete. Professor X did not speak, and the voice rang directly in everyone's minds. Lynn wants a college full of competition, not only among the students, but also among U.S. professors. Only through competition can there be growth. All the X-Men looked at each other. If this is the case, Magneto has come. Will his mutant brotherhood be far behind? As predicted, what Lynn will introduce next is Mutant Brotherhood's #1 man, Mystique. After Mystique appeared, she didn't speak. The grim temperament is exactly the same as Magneto 860. She didn't even look at Professor X, an old friend. Lynn's spiritual power enveloped the audience, and she clearly saw Professor X's face with a look of gloom. But he didn't care, but continued to introduce. What everyone needs to know is that the existence of each subject has huge amounts of value. Therefore, the college does not only teach knowledge about super abilities. We also attach importance to other aspects of knowledge. The sonorous and powerful voice once again attracted everyone's attention. So, the next thing I want to introduce to you is the vice principal who is in charge of teaching in this area. This is more for those parents. No one wants their child to become a person who only knows how to play with super abilities. Therefore, when the parents heard the words, they all concentrated their attention. Dr. Bruce Banner. Lynn didn't talk nonsense. Another wave of water exploded, and the figure of Dr. Banner appeared in everyone's sight. FK. Nick Fury cursed again. Phil Coulson, who was eating and watching, also stopped in shock. Boss, if I remember correctly, Bruce Banner is the Green Titan Hulk? His recruitment list in Avengers Inside. After the Battle of Broadway, SHILD was looking for Hulk everywhere. Who would have thought to see it here? For a moment, he almost thought he was hallucinating. Nick Fury didn't speak. His face was already gloomy enough to drip water. The one-eyed eyes flickered. In a line of sight, Banner's expression was obviously a little reserved. Perhaps because of running away for many years and being forced to hide in Tibet. He is not used to this kind of scene that attracts so much attention. But Lynn has already introduced him. Dr. Banner has 7 doctorates in nuclear physics, radiation physics, biochemistry, engineering, robotics, computer science, and mathematics, and is one of the smartest people on the planet. As soon as these words came out, all the freshmen gasped. The parents were even more surprised from ear to ear. 7 PhDs. It's all cutting-edge subjects. What kind of concept is this? Is the faculty of the college so terrible? Such thoughts popped up in everyone's minds. They thought that the academy only taught knowledge about super abilities. Who would have thought that there would be such top scientists sitting here? And Lynn's presentation clearly wasn't over yet. In addition to Dr. Banner, the college is also honored to invite several other professors who have made achievements in different fields. They are Mr. Matt Murdoch, Professor of Law; Dr. Zhao Hailuan, Professor of Genetics, Medicine, and Biology. Her attainments in nanotechnology are also among the top in the world. Dr. Samuel Stern, Professor of Biochemistry; Astrophysicist Professor Jane Foster; Associate Professor Daisy Lewis. It didn't take much effort to invite Hailuan Zhao to be a visiting professor, although her achievements in the future are quite high, and she also helped Ultron come up with the vibranium body. But at this point in time, her Life Cradle project is still in the preparation stage and is looking for investment. Lynn showed up in due course and agreed to invest. Then, she agreed to be a visiting professor. Although most of her key time is spent on research, it is still very easy to occasionally come to give a class to the students. The most important thing is that her Cradle of Life technology can provide the college with powerful medical support. Boss, Dr. Helen Zhao's Cradle of Life technology seems to be on our watch list. This time, even Phil Coulson's complexion was a bit wrong. And that Jane Foster seems to be the student of Dr. Eric we just recruited. I heard that he has great ability in astrophysics. When he said this, his tone was very grateful. Fortunately, we have Dr. Eric. You shut up, Phil Coulson. Nick Fury almost gritted his teeth and burst out a few words. At the moment, his face has turned green. Not only Helen Zhao, Daredevil Matt Murdock has also been on the watch list of S.H.I.E.L.D. Although his ability is not very strong, it is not born with it, but acquired by accident. If necessary, it can be recruited for your own use. But now, why do these talents that S.H.I.E.L.D. likes come to Xavier's school one by one inexplicably? Is this just a coincidence? Thinking of this, Nick Fury unconsciously remembered that when he recruited Eric Shavik, the other party seemed to say that someone had already offered him a very good job. If Tesseract is not too attractive, the other party might reject me too. Now it seems that the job the other party mentioned is clearly Xavier's school. FK. 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 For a moment, Nick Fury was silent on the surface, cursing crazily in his heart. And soon, he knew that he had scolded too early. Along with the clamor of freshmen, Lynn smiled and invited another person. The next professor is very special. She not only masters many advanced technologies far ahead of the times, still a princess of a country. Most importantly, she is older than many of you. Please, Princess Su Rue. The appearance of Princess Su Rue is also very special. When she was in adolescence, after learning about the opening ceremony, she went back to Wakanda and drove her favorite chariot over. A sports car made entirely of vibranium. Buzz! Amidst the ear-piercing roar of the engine, a ray of light suddenly appeared in the woods on the other side, appeared in front of everyone in just a few seconds, and drove up to the surface of the water with difficulty. The sports car stopped, and Princess Su Rue opened the door excitedly. The shoes she was wearing obviously had other secrets, and she stood on the water with ease, just like Lynn and others. Hi, everyone, the 16-year-old girl greeted playfully. Wakanda. Nick Fury got up suddenly. His teeth were almost gnawed. His whole body seemed to be numbed by electricity, and he stood there in a daze. Before he could react, Lynn double-recorded and invited another person. The last professor to be introduced below, like me, also serves as the honorary president of the college. He is the one, Mr. Iron Man Tony Stark. Goodness behold, when Iron Man flew down from the sky, Nick Fury has lost all sense of the world around him. He felt rejected by the whole world. Chapter 80 Lynn's school motto: we will do anything. Great gift crab special. Mr. Stark is our honorary headmaster. He's not a mutant. How could he be willing? What kind of school is this? X-Men, Magneto, top doctors in various fields, the princess of a country, the helm of the Stark Group, are all our teachers. Am I dreaming? Before I came here, I really thought that Xavier's school only taught us to master super abilities and could protect our safety. Who thought it would be so powerful? So, our mutants will be able to walk in the sun openly in the future. It's not a slogan for propaganda, but really, someone help me. I'm a little dizzy. Undoubtedly, the appearance of Iron Man brought the atmosphere of the audience to its climax. Everyone was dancing with excitement, and some were even incoherent. The noise came and went and lasted for a long time. In the hearts of those parents, the last worry about Xavier's school has completely disappeared. Even Iron Man is the honorary principal of the school. What else do they have to worry about? This study is settled. Remy Lebo of Gambit looked at this scene with complicated eyes, and then looked at Wolverine Luo behind Professor X, and couldn't help muttering to himself, has Xavier's school developed to this level before you know it? Perhaps staying with Logan back then was the right choice. His ability is very strong, and his IQ is also sufficient. Therefore, even though Mutant's living environment is getting worse and worse, he has lived a pretty cool life these years. It's just the taste, only you know it. Blinking Clarice's expression was also extremely complicated. In the future, I will never be arrested and imprisoned again. In the eyes of Angel Warren Worthington, there were tears streaming down. Father, I will make you understand that I was born as a mutant. I am not a monster. I am the pride of the Worthington family. Polaris Lorna Dane's gaze was fixed on Magneto. For some reason, she always felt that this man was somewhat familiar. Lynn watched the scene quietly. He didn't speak again until the excitement of most people subsided and they became quiet again. Definitely, professors such as Dr. Banner and Mr. Stark, their courses are obviously a bit advanced, so only students from the university department can take them. He looked around the audience, raised his hand again, and called out a large wave of water. For the students in the elementary school and middle school, the college has also equipped the most suitable teachers. In the future, you will gradually become familiar with them. On this large wave of water, there are dozens of ordinary teachers standing, both male and female, with different complexions. But without exception, there was no look of reluctance. Obviously, all willing to teach mutant. This is not surprising at all. For this kind of basic course teachers, as long as you spend a little more money, you can easily find a lot of them. Those who are finally hired have even been screened by Lynn. Do you make money where work is not work? What is the difference between teaching regular students and mutant students? Who made Xavier's school pay too much? For these people, Lynn did not introduce them one by one. He waved his fingers lightly, and the water jets on the left and right sides led a group of professors to rush to the shore. Then, next is the questioning session. At the same time, he continued, about the academy, if you have any questions, you can ask them. As soon as these words came out, all the freshmen raised their hands almost at the same time. Obviously, after this extraordinary opening ceremony, these mutant, regardless of their age and file size, have inadvertently adapted to their status as students. Lynn is very satisfied with this. He pointed to Polaris Lorna Dane, who impressed him deeply in the crowd. Senior Lynn, Miss Polaris's attitude was completely different from before. She even blushed a little under the watchful eyes of everyone. Where do we have classes? This manor can't accommodate so many of us, right? This question is obviously also a question for all new students and their parents. Even Professor X et al. Want to know. Since Siren and more than 100 people joined the academy, Logan wanted to take the students to build a house, but was stopped by Lynn. So much so that the freshmen have already enrolled, and there's only one building in the Xavier Manor in this large area with a radius of 3 kilometers, which seems extremely empty. The college definitely won't let students sleep rough. Lynn was clearly prepared for this and glanced at Professor X. Actually, this is what Principal Charles meant. He felt that as the honorary principal of the college and a senior who just graduated this year, It is necessary for me to give the first class to the freshmen. Let everyone know the teaching philosophy of the college professor X was slightly taken aback when he heard this. I do ask you to give a class to the freshmen and share the learning experience of outstanding graduates. DJ, what does this have to do with it? I definitely can't refuse the principal's request. So next, I just ask everyone a question. Lynn's eyes flashed brightly, and her temperament changed in an instant, from calm and indifferent to sharp-edged. Mutants all have super abilities, but do you really understand your own abilities? Kindness? When this question came out, all the freshmen were taken aback. Or from another angle, what exactly is mutant super ability? Lynn continued. For example, Professor Logan's self-healing factor can recover no matter how serious the injury is, but does this super ability just make him an immortal person? For example, Professor Scott's eyes can emit extremely powerful laser light. But could it be that his super ability just makes him see something that is not pleasing to the eye, so he will be bombarded? Another example is you. Calm eyes slowly passed over the group of freshmen, making everyone feel a pressure. Some of you can control fire, some of you can control magnetic field, some of you can create portals, some of you have wings, but could it be that your genetic evolution only allows you to control fire, manipulate magnetic fields, teleport, and fly? After saying these words, even Professor X, Magneto, and others couldn't help being puzzled. Everyone looked at each other in blank dismay, not keeping up with Lynn's rhythm at all. Among the crowd, only Tony's eyes lit up. These questions may be a bit complicated. Let me put it bluntly. Seeing everyone's eyes full of bewilderment, Lynn shook her head and said, "There are countless possibilities for genetic evolution, but why did humans acquire super abilities? And why did we acquire this existing super ability? Woolen cloth. Why not a uniform lifespan increase? Or a uniform brain development? Why are our super abilities so strange?" Undoubtedly, Lynn is perfecting his theory of genetic evolution and instilling his ideas in the first batch of students at the first opening ceremony of the new Xavier School. I can't give you the answer directly, but I know there is a reason for existence. His tone suddenly rose like thunder, and it was deafening. Using a super ability and mastering a super ability have always been two completely different things. That's what we're going to learn in the academy. To understand ability, discover ability, and finally understand what these abilities can give us in the world. What kind of metamorphosis? In Lynn's view, the mutants in this world use super abilities too crudely, or in other words, the vast majority of mutants don't have the concept of developing super abilities at all. They simply know how to use it and rely on instinct. Compare with those fairy tales of Long Kingdom. The extreme development of various spells is like the difference between primitive society and modern society. This is clearly not enough. This world is not only the Earth. The new Xavier School he built is positioned as the holy land of mutant in the short term, and will become the core of the mutant empire in the future. How can there be no perfect super ability system? Asking for flowers. In short, these eloquent words are to set a goal for all freshmen. Let them know what they should do, instead of being muddled like before. This is something that a group must have to move towards a civilization. So, please allow me, as the honorary principal, to promulgate the first school motto of the new Xavier School. At this moment, the light in Lynn's eyes seemed to magnify infinitely, like the scorching sun, shining into the hearts of every mutant in the audience. We learn, master, develop, and evolve super ability. One day we will have nothing. Cannot. As if responding to his words, the ground under his feet trembled violently without warning. The next moment, under countless, almost dull gazes, the ground under their feet rose little by little, and it turned out to be 10-meter-high clay titans, slowly standing up with a long table. 10 long tables, exactly 10 titans. A group of freshmen hurriedly grabbed the table, but found that there was no sign of falling, so they breathed a sigh of relief and looked down at the ground below. The water column under Lynn's feet also soared to the same height. I saw him open his right hand and lightly grasp the ground below. Amidst the loud noise of rumbling, The ground rolled up like dragons, and the rocks shattered, and the trees in the forest pulled themselves out of the ground, stripped their bark, and turned into standard logs. The streams of water are turbulent and blended, and they're actually condensed into a smooth mirror. Everything is like a dream. In just a few minutes, a group of freshmen actually witnessed a castle rising from the ground. Not a castle. It's a giant castle complex surrounding the Xavier estate, based on earth and rocks, with giant trees as beams, water mirrors as windows, and various grotesque vines as embellishments. The rest of the vegetation seems to be spiritually swelled, and giant leaves fall down and connect with each other to form a landscape. Road also has numerous flying stairs. There are even stars falling from the sky, or gathering into fireflies, floating away, or clinging to the vines, embellishing the castle and the castle. There are teaching areas, activity areas, and living areas that are clearly separated. There's also a tall tower on each side, which is the research room for the professors. When the castle group is fully formed, everyone is already stunned. This scene is destined to be imprinted deep in their souls, and they will never forget it forever. At the moment, they suddenly had the most intuitive and profound understanding of the school motto that Lynn mentioned. We learn, master, develop, evolve super abilities. One day, we will be omnipotent. At this moment, the unprecedented shock impacted every newborn soul. Even Professor X, Magneto Wong, and other professors also felt struck by lightning. Nick Fury and Phil Coulson, who also saw this scene, even directly suspected that they were dreaming. He just changed the molecular structure of how many objects. No one responded to them. Down below, in the Xavier Manor, students such as Burning Man John and Bishop, who did not attend the opening ceremony, have already driven cars full of bedding and daily necessities towards the castle complex. Lynn stepped on the water and looked at the group of freshmen. So, how about going to visit the school together? With a light wave of his left hand, buttons of file-size badges appeared out of thin air and were automatically pasted on the chests of the freshmen. On the badge, a staff and an ancient book intersect, forming a strange X-shaped pattern. This is the school badge of the college, and it is also the voucher for entering and leaving the castle. It is automatically bound to every student, and it can also have a defensive effect at critical moments. In the suspicious eyes of the freshmen, 10 Mud Titans have already stepped forward to move up the mountain. Chapter 81, what are they going to do? And what the hell do they need to think about? Lynn did not participate in the visit to the castle. Nick Fury and Phil Coulson definitely won't be going either. So, after the 10 Titans roared away, only the 3 of them remained at the scene of the opening ceremony, which was still bustling just now. Mr. Lynn. Nick Fury was silent for a while and suddenly said loudly, "Since the opening ceremony is over, can I trouble you to send us away?" Lynn looked at him in surprise. A visitor from afar, Director Nick Fury won't wait for Principal Charles? With a slightly puzzled voice, a water ladder appeared again, extending to the shore. No, Nick Fury has no hesitation. SHILD still has a lot of things to deal with. I need to go back immediately. Lynn smiled. It's early morning, and the director of SHILD still has to work overtime 24 hours a day. He smiled and didn't stop him. He raised his hand to open the teleportation circle again. If that's the case, then we won't be able to entertain you well. In the center of the lake, the rippling water turned into a vortex. Nick Fury walked over quickly and took a deep look at 487 Lynn. Mr. Lynn, I hope that the next time we meet, we can still be as happy as today. Director Nick Fury was joking. Lynn looked at him calmly. Xavier School has no intention of being an enemy of anyone. We just want to do what we should do. That's all. Hope so. After Nick Fury finished speaking, he jumped into the vortex without any hesitation. Phil Coulson looked bewildered, but he followed up step by step. The light and shadow changed, and the two reappeared on the edge of the giant pit. At the moment, the night is deep and all is still. The dozens of mutants dismissed by Lynn have disappeared. Only the agents of SHILD are still waiting for their boss to return. Boss, Are we leaving like this? Phil Coulson was puzzled, with a hamburger in his hand. We finally got in the new Xavier school, just to talk to Charles. It's not necessary, Phil Coulson. Nick Fury's footsteps stopped, and his voice trembled slightly in the darkness. Phil Coulson was keenly aware of the strangeness of his boss. Boss, do you know what these mutants are trying to do? Nick Fury was silent for a moment. Suddenly it exploded. Phil Coulson, do you know why the government has always been afraid of mutant and secretly researching mutants' ability? But until now, even a small mutant registration act has not been officially implemented, he yelled, and without waiting for Phil Coulson to respond, he continued, because in the eyes of the higher-ups, mutant can't be a climate at all. Because the FG Magneto and the FG Professor X are not the same. Because the FG Mutant Group is a plate of loose sand. But now look at Xavier's school. No, look at what that Lynn did. Also integrates X-Men and Mutant Brotherhood, so that rivals Magneto and Professor X can work together. What does that mean? It means that he wants to integrate all the mutants step by step through the way Xavier's school recruits students. He also found a bunch of allies for Mutant, and Wani Stark is FG with him. And the Princess of Wakanda. Do you know how hard it is for us to buy a little vibranium from Wakanda? He even asked the Princess of Wakanda to come to the academy as a professor. Professor shit. Look at his school motto again. Mutant has always been a mess, because the only thing this group has in common is the possession of super abilities, and there is no other connection other than that. But if all the mutants have the same goal, then this group will no longer be scattered and isolated, and they will have a unified thought. Besides, he even found a lot of scientists to teach mutant knowledge other than super ability. What is this? There are super abilities, talents in various fields, unified ideological support, and have been trying to control public opinion. This is transforming the mutant community in the same way as building a political party. What is he going to do? What the hell is he thinking about? Need us to ask Charles? Nick Fury was obviously stimulated by huge amounts of, and a series of FK came out of his mouth, which made Phil Coulson dumbfounded. Immediately afterwards, he took a breath. Boss, you mean? Phil Coulson's face changed several times within a few seconds. No matter how he thought about it, he felt incredible. If so, why did he take the initiative to let us participate in this opening ceremony? This is deterrence. Nick Fury took a deep breath and forcibly calmed himself down. He is not afraid of us knowing this at all. He just uses this opening ceremony to let us know. The mutant now is different from before. They don't need to hide anymore. They don't need to look at the faces of the officials, the military, or even SHIELD anymore. He's showing off his muscles openly, warning us not to have any bad thoughts. Phil Coulson fell into a long silence. He already understood why Nick Fury didn't want to stay at Xavier's school for one more second, and why he just gave up on meeting Charles. Indeed, it is no longer necessary. Mutant wants to turn the sky upside down. The night wind was cold, Phil Coulson shivered, and the group woke up from the horror. Then, what should we do? Do nothing. Nick Fury didn't speak. The two looked at each other silently. For a moment, there was a feeling of being at a loss with nowhere to start. To say something that strengthens the ambitions of others and destroys one's prestige. With Xavier's school's current strength and Lynn's powerful strength shown tonight, it really has the qualifications in SHIELD's eyes. That's not the point. The point is, Lynn made it clear that Xavier's school has no intention of being an enemy of anyone. The implication is obviously that as long as SHIELD does not come to provoke, Xavier's school will not bother to answer. In this case, should we take the initiative to provoke? In case they are angered, Professor X and Magneto will join forces. Whether SHIELD can stop, it is really a question. Do you want to ask Captain Marvel for help? But if they are left alone, if this group of people is allowed to develop like this, it will not take long for the mutant group to be baptized, and it will definitely become a big phenomenon. I don't know how long it has been. The two opened their mouths at the same time, but at the same time, they hesitated to speak. Then both sighed. We don't even know where they are. I went to Xavier's school once, but I didn't seem to go. With this feeling, Nick Fury, who has always been resourceful and frequently resorted to tricks, couldn't help feeling a little depressed. But he deserved to be the boss of SHIELD, and he was not really hit. After frowning and thinking for a long time, he ordered in an orderly manner, "Phil Coulson, contact me with Stark tomorrow. I want to know what's going on with him. Do you still want the Stark Group's business? Send Barton, Hawkeye, to Wakanda. I want to know what deal they made with Mutant to send all the princesses out. Send Natasha Romanoff to Matt Murdock, who spends his days fighting crime in Hell's Kitchen and still has time to be a teacher. Also, increase the monitoring. The teachers and students in Xavier's school will always be on vacation. As long as they find the target and contact them immediately, I don't believe it. There is no clue about the location of the school." After issuing a series of orders, he paused and then added in a low voice, "In addition, inform Base Zero that the research on Tesseract must be accelerated. 5.5 at this time. SHIELD should not know the name of Tesseract. In order to facilitate everyone's memory, I used it in advance. Clear. Phil Coulson, write it down and ask curiously, 'Boss, then I'm off to find a new Avengers member.'" Nick Fury didn't know what he was thinking and muttered to himself, "No matter when it comes, power is the root of everything." Phil Coulson was silent. He turned his head and glanced at the huge pit behind him. "Do you want to block this place?" "Not for now. Just keep monitoring." Nick Fury shook his head. "If this place is blocked, it will undoubtedly be a provocation to Xavier's school. The current situation is clearly not the time." Phil Coulson nodded. The two resumed their steps and walked towards Quinjet. The night wind continued to blow. Faintly, it seemed that there was a whisper. "Boss, I always feel that Lynn took the initiative to invite us to watch the ceremony. It's not just as simple as shocking." Chapter 82 in the name of the Academy. Do official things. Xavier's school ushered in unprecedented excitement. Although the appearance of Magneto greatly exceeded the expectations of Professor X and others, the whole thing was undoubtedly developing in a direction beneficial to Mutant, so they did not explode on the spot. Next, it depends on the later running in. For these, Lynn does not intend to intervene. It was his original idea to form 3 schools headed by Professor X, Magneto, and Dr. Banner in the college. Professor X cultivates ability, Magneto tempers will, Dr. Banner imparts knowledge, 3-pronged approach. Students can get all-round improvement. Therefore, the new Xavier School will be a typical example of easy admission and difficult graduation. Every student must excel in at least one field in order to graduate smoothly. This is what Lynn is going to implement, the new mutant hierarchy. The college does not divide grades by age, but by ability and knowledge. After 3 days, the start of term assessment will be held. All students, including the original ones, must participate. Based on the assessment results, the grade they are in will be determined. The elementary school conducts basic knowledge education so that students can initially master their own super abilities. From a middle school, majors are divided, professional courses are compulsory, and non-professional courses are optional. Students with non-combat abilities can choose law, physics, medicine, and other majors according to their own interests. When you arrive at the university department, you will start regular assessment. Those who pass one round of assessment are level 1 mutants. Those who pass the second round are level 2 mutants. And those who pass 3 rounds are level 3 mutants. If they can be assessed as level 4 mutants, they can graduate smoothly. 21. The principal's office of Professor X has been enlarged more than 10 times by Lynn using the traceless stretching spell. The college's core professors gathered around a giant conference table, listening to Lynn speak. This kind of teaching change is obviously nothing to Magneto, Dr. Banner, Tony, and others, but to Professor X and others, it is completely different from before. Phoenix and Storm looked at each other, and the former said, "How to conduct this kind of assessment? How to balance the control of super abilities and the control of professional knowledge." According to different majors, the emphasis is different. Lynn snapped her fingers and stacks of materials appeared on the table in front of everyone. 70% of the assessment for students in the super energy department is about mastering their own abilities, and 3% is about mastering a certain professional knowledge. 10. Students of other majors are just the opposite. In short, What the Academy wants to cultivate is elite talents with both muscles and brains. Even, this is only one aspect of the assessment. He paused, leaving time for everyone to browse through the materials, and then continued. On the other hand, it is a paper, whether it is the research, excavation, or conjecture of his own super ability, or the summary and research of this professional knowledge. All students can submit articles to the school journal, and every time a paper is published, there will be corresponding bonus points. If you can combine super ability and professionalism to produce some kind of exquisite chemical reaction, the score will be doubled. If everyone realizes something, this undoubtedly echoed Lynn's speech at the opening ceremony. Treat super ability as a profession and encourage students to conduct research and development. I seem to have returned to my college days. Dr. Banner smiled. He was very familiar with these and felt very kind. Beast frowned slightly and said, "Lynn, the combination of super ability and professionalism. What exactly do you mean?" He agreed to come back to serve as a professor entirely because of Professor X's invitation. So he doesn't know much about Lynn, an outstanding graduate of this college. Originally, he just wanted to do it first, and if he had other plans in the future, he would talk about it. But after the extraordinary opening ceremony just now, he suddenly looked forward to the future of the new Xavier School. The whole person has also become full of enthusiasm. For example, Principal Charles's brain wave strengthening device can amplify one's own super ability, and Principal Magneto's anti-psychic helmet can resist other people's psychic attacks. Lynn explained patiently, snapped her fingers again, and said, "Another example is this." A long broom appeared out of nowhere on the conference table. Under everyone's puzzled eyes, Lynn flicked her fingers, and a page of paper on the table suddenly folded itself, first turning into a paper figure, and then rapidly growing in size. With a flash of light around him, Sheeran turned into a person exactly like Wolverine. WTF? Lynn, this joke isn't funny at all. Logan immediately protested, but to no avail. He could only watch myself jump up and sit on the broom. At that moment, he felt a kind of ballsy sadness for no reason. But then his eyes straightened. I saw a person sitting on a broom, and it flew out with a swoosh. Great gift crab special. Not just Wolverine. The faces of many people present changed slightly. This broom can carry people on flight? Can it do without flight's super ability? Because of the untraceable stretching curse, the meeting room is quite large and high. So Wolverine controls the broomstick up and down, fast and slow, and it even suddenly lowered its height, sticking to Logan's hair whizzes by. This time, everyone understood. This is the combination of super ability and professionalism. Although this broomstick obviously has Lynn's magic, and there are very few mutants with such a comprehensive ability, but those with a single ability can definitely work hard in this direction. They don't have magic. Learn technology. Isn't Charles's brain wave strengthening device made in this way? It's no wonder Lynn puts so much emphasis on teaching technology. Professor X and Magneto glanced at each other quietly, and they both saw the strangeness in each other's eyes. Even in their city, they couldn't help but feel sincere admiration for Lynn's foresight on the other side. Tony was equally amazed. No wonder Lynn said that mutant will change the world at this moment. He no longer had any doubts about Lynn's theory of genetic evolution. The emergence of mutant is indeed the direction of human evolution. But in the past, the development of mutant was disorderly and chaotic, until now, under the guidance of Lynn, it is developing in the right direction. If things go on like this, human civilization will progress by leaps and bounds. Myself, come on. Lynn, is this for sale? Wakanda can buy it. Princess Su-Rue spoke suddenly, showing great interest in this broomstick, paused, and added, "Use vibranium." The word vibranium spread, and everyone present trembled when they heard it. All eyes gathered together. It's just complicated. Definitely. Let your big brother talk to teacher Orolo. Lynn nodded. He would not tell Princess Su-Rue that this broomstick was just made by him to satisfy his own bad taste when he was extremely bored. If you really want to make magic props like flight, how can you choose to sweep the rich? Don't you sit down? Lynn Professor X smiled happily and suddenly said, Students can only graduate after level 4. Isn't the requirement too high? He raised the information in his hand. His face was a little shocked. According to the series of assessment criteria you listed, I'm afraid our professor can only be regarded as an upgrade city. Apparently, he thought Lynn's standards were too strict. According to this information, he and Magneto can be rated as level 6, while X-Men is basically level 5. Under this rating system, students need to reach level 4 to graduate. How stressed are the students? Principal, this is not just a common assessment mechanism in the academy. Lynn raised her eyebrows slightly and looked around at everyone seriously. I hope that all mutants in the world will come to participate in the assessment. As long as they pass, the Academy will issue corresponding certification badges from level 1 to level 4, even level 5. Only a mutant with a badge will have the opportunity to work in a mutant company and will be recognized by the Academy. No matter what happens in the future, you can go to the Mutant 043 Affairs Bureau for help. As soon as these words came out, all the mutants, including X, trembled. The non-mutant professor also reacted instantly. Identity, authentication, there are smart people here. Lee doesn't understand the purpose of this move. Lynn, this is the official institution to make the Academy into a mutant group. College open enrollment, established Mutant Affairs Bureau. Introducing a new hierarchy within the mutant colony. This step by step, it is clearly interlocking, and it has been premeditated. In the name of the Academy, doing official things. Professor X and Magneto looked at each other again. This time they really felt old. Compared with Lynn's planning, their previous affairs can only be said to be trivial. Forget it, stop fussing. Be a principal, vice principal, with peace of mind. So, what method should we use to get all the mutants to participate in the assessment? Phoenix broke away from the shock and said, and the Academy's registration point has been exposed. If there are really too many mutants appearing, SHIELD will not sit idly by. Obviously, she didn't understand that Lynn invited Nick Fury to watch the ceremony. Lynn doesn't explain either. He just looked at her teasingly and said with a smile, Mr. Goulet, have you forgotten my core identity? Phoenix was slightly taken aback. Isn't Lynn's identity the honorary principal of the college? Wait, he seems to be the chairman of the second world. I don't know why. Obviously, it hasn't been long, but the memories of the second world in Phoenix's mind seem to be a little far away. It is really that too many things have happened during this period, and she has an inexplicable sense of unreality until now. Looking back at this moment, a thought suddenly appeared in my mind. The Oasis project is about to officially set sail. Chapter 83 Warm-Up, the Second Wave. Oasis Pioneer Experience Program. A few days later, White Queen Emma Frost officially took office as Director of Mutant Affairs Bureau. X Daily made a special report on this matter on the Mutant Channel. Although this department is a complete empty shell, with important people, no one asking for money, no money, and not even a decent office location. It is definitely the most friendly cooperation between Mutant and the official in so many years. Many people took this as a signal of Mutant's official recognition. The resulting impact is that more and more people have changed their attitudes towards Mutant. After all, Mutant even has a special law enforcement agency. If you encounter mutant crimes in the future, you can directly report the case and let the X-Men handle it. To be honest, Mutant is integrated into the rule, and it seems to become less scary. This change in thinking is subtle, and as time goes by, it will affect more and more people. Some people even read the report, and a question naturally appeared in their minds. If this continues, the number of X-Men will definitely increase. Will it become another independent police system one day? The answer to this question, now definitely no one knows. But not many people really care, because they quickly attracted attention to another video. Today, the popularity of X Daily has been completely unstoppable, and more people have participated in it, posting videos to share their lives, and countless new accounts are opened every day. This video comes from a channel called Second World. A green titan, Hulk, appeared on the screen. Hulk! I saw the big green guy roaring wildly, chasing an ordinary young man. As if there was a deep hatred between the two, he pulled up a big tree by the roadside and threw it over. The young man dodged in embarrassment, and as soon as he hid next to a car, he heard the sound of bang and bang, and the cars were blown away by the Hulk and fell like raindrops. Big guy, it's almost done. Don't bully people too much, the young man ran away in a panic, and the people watching were extremely excited. He rushed all the way, and when he saw a person who had just stopped and opened the door, he pulled him out and sat in the cab instead. Step on the accelerator directly to the bottom, and the sports car shoots out like an arrow from the string. To the surprise of all the audience, Hulk turned a blind eye to the man whose car was robbed and still ran after the young man. Even other people on the road, he didn't seem to see. After chasing and fleeing, countless exclamations of panic were set off. A few seconds later, the sports car rushed onto the world-renowned Golden Gate Bridge. Hulk leaped high and swayed between the bridge frames one after another. On the hood, the sports car was instantly overturned. The young man was thrown out of the car window directly. Countless vehicles on the bridge collided one after another. Everyone who saw this scene couldn't help feeling anxious. That day, the big battle between Hulk and the Abomination also caused huge amounts of disaster like this. But at the moment, they saw the young man's face without the slightest fear. Instead, there was a touch of anger. Enough! With a shout, the young man was in the air. His clothes suddenly changed, and he turned into a Gotham Knight Batman, and a claw gun appeared out of thin air in his hand. With a sound of bang, the claws were launched and nailed to the steel structure at the height of the bridge. With the pulling force of the claws, the young man passed over Hulk's head unharmed and stood on the tall steel structure a few seconds later, looking down at Hulk. Naturally, Hulk would not let him go and jumped up high again with a violent roar. "You forced me," the young man snarled and changed his clothes again and turned into the well-known Superman again. Those familiar battle suits and bright red capes will never be forgotten by anyone who has read the news. How is this going? The audience's minds were full of questions, and before they could react, the Superman in the screen flew out with a swoosh and had a head-on collision with Hulk's fist. In the sound of bang, bang, and bang, Hulk was directly smashed to the ground, and the concrete bridge was almost smashed through. But then he jumped out again, and his strength seemed to be stronger than before. "It's not over, is it?" Superman snorted coldly and changed his clothes again. This time, even his hair turned white. With a black windbreaker, he looked a bit like Storm from X-Men. He raised his right hand, and lightning bolts cracked down from the sky, striking Hulk. Hulk roared. Scorched black appeared on his green skin. The mad rush has not diminished in the slightest. The young man was furious, and in a blink of an eye, he changed into a Cyclops outfit again, and red laser rays burst out from his eyes, hitting Hulk's body. But even so, Hulk still braved the damage of the laser light and rushed in front of him. The young man sighed helplessly, his hair and clothes turned red. Like a phoenix, he rubbed his hands and gently grabbed Hulk. Why bother? Hulk's body suddenly stopped in midair. Countless viewers have seen this scene before. Phoenix's psychokinesis is extremely strong. Under the control of this super ability, any object will lose its ability to move. However, in the picture, Hulk was clearly under control, but he still didn't give up. His broad right hand was moving little by little, but it's not about hitting young people in the face. Instead, towards his wrist. It wasn't until at the moment that everyone suddenly realized that Hulk's target was not this young man, but a black bracelet on his hand. "Give me Oasis." A slow but firm voice slowly came out of Hulk's mouth. "No." The young man, who had never been really angry all this time, changed his expression instantly when he heard this sentence, and suddenly changed into Wolverine's costume again, with sharp adamantium claws protruding from the bones of his hand, and stabbed into Hulk's body with his stab. "Oasis mine." At this point, the picture has been plunged into darkness, and the video has been merged. At the beginning, people who saw this video were stunned. But then, they reacted. "That black wristband, a bit familiar. It really looks like I've seen it somewhere. Great gift crab special. Isn't that the bracelet on Iron Man's hand in the news some time ago?" I remember that it seemed like a game. At that time, I was still thinking about what game to play without a computer, but with a wristband. So, Hulk is fighting that guy to the death just to grab a gaming bracelet. Saw an ad. After reacting, countless people started cursing and swearing. They thought it was an extremely dangerous battle, but after a long time, it turned out to be in for the game. After Green Titan left the contract, he went to shoot commercials for someone. It's just outrageous. One thing to say, the public has a good impression of Hulk. Although he fought against the Abomination and almost destroyed half of Broadway with the rapid spread of the scene, everyone knew that he was stopping the Abomination. In addition to Shadowcat's live broadcast, Mr. Lawn explained the reason for the accidental birth of Hulk. Many people even developed sympathy and love for this big green guy. Because of this, when seeing the figure of Hulk, most people subconsciously clicked into the video. Who would have thought that the result would be like this? For a moment, an unparalleled sense of absurdity filled the hearts of every audience member. Many people even have the urge to smash their phones, but at the same time, they unconsciously became curious about the black bracelet. So, the game that Iron Man played back then was called Oasis. What kind of game is this? Is that young man in the video a player? Why can he switch between Batman, Superman, Storm, Cyclops, Wolverine at will? Is this a kind of imitative super ability? Or is the selling point of the game displayed through the screen? FK. This is definitely the most hateful game company in the world. For such a long time, except for 2S, no valuable content has been exposed, but it has successfully aroused my interest. What should I do? Brother, you're not the only one. I'm also extremely curious now. What is this game like? Who isn't? As the video spread, more and more people commented, and some even wanted to use the account name of Second World to hack into the tax bureau's system to find information about this company. But they didn't really act, because there is a sticky link under the Second World channel. Click to enter. It is a very simple page. Oasis World Pioneer Experience Program. 13,810 cities around the world. 100 players will be drawn from each city to participate. Below is a series of information that needs to be filled in, such as name, address, country, and contact information. This game has not announced anything, and a trial version has been released first. Everyone who clicked and was dumbfounded. What is this operation? Can all cities in the world participate? Are you so confident? What kind of game company can release it simultaneously in all countries and cities around the world? Simply inexplicable. Cursing voices swept the entire network in a very short period of time. But at the same time, registration information one after another also appeared on the counter of the Second World Company database. Stark Building, Office of the President. Tony witnessed the whole process of this internet drama and finally gave Lynn a thumbs up. The marketing thing, you really understand it. It's not shameful to rub traffic. Lynn smiled and sent it back. Leaders, who made you and Hulk so famous now? It's not just us. In just a few minutes of video, you use everyone in the X-Men, as well as Batman and Superman. Tony didn't mean to joke with him, but said with interest, aren't you afraid that Batman and Superman will come to your door? For this question, Lynn answered very seriously. If they find them, I will ask them to be the star experience officer of the world of Oasis. Tony stared at him blankly for a while. Only then did he sigh deeply. You really deserve the money. He sighed with emotion and slumped directly on the luxurious sofa. After the trial version is launched, when are you going to officially hold the press conference? I can't wait to count the money. Presentation R. There was a strange look in Lynn's eyes, and then he shook his head. It's not the time yet. As soon as Tony saw his expression, he knew he had a plan. Can't help but ask curiously. Oasis has not released any content, and it has already gained such a big reputation. Do you still think it's not the right time? No way. The internet has national boundaries. Lynn sighed softly. Although the two warm-ups were very successful thanks to your and Hulk's fame, we have to admit that in many countries with firewalls, Oasis may be well known, but not too much. So we also need a big news that breaks the barriers of the global network. Big news? There's a thoughtful look in Tony's eyes. Chapter 84 Ghost Spider and Pokemon. The essence of human beings is really fragrant. In the following period of time, there were so many comments, posts, and videos criticizing Oasis on the internet that it was too numerous to count. However, the number of people who sign up to participate in the Pioneer Experience program is increasing by a terrifying number every day. More and more people are looking forward to what this mysterious game that can make Iron Man addicted and Hulk crazy will look like, and what kind of magic power it has. So, when the list of experiencers was announced half a month later, more than 1 million people who were drawn were ecstatic. More people were disappointed, and then set off a second round of online scolding. At the same time, I frantically searched for the winners around me, hoping to know more about Oasis. In this regard, the more than 1 million experiencers have no time to pay attention to it. As soon as they receive the game bracelet, they were immersed in the magnificence and dream of the second world. Inextricable. Twistabout. The home of Police Chief George Stacy. When Gwen Stacy came home from school, she habitually checked her mailbox. When she saw a package with her name written on it, she was shocked and her eyes widened. Recently, she didn't buy anything online. So could it be? Suppressing her excitement, she quickly opened the package, and then the black bracelet that had been watched countless times in the video appeared in her sight. Oh God, she almost jumped up in surprise. She never thought that she would be one of the 100 lucky secrets in Twisting City. 127, what kind of luck is this? Some time ago, she hesitated for a long time, but she still didn't go to the new Xavier school to report. On the one hand, her ability was obtained after being bitten by a spider, so it can't be regarded as a pure mutant. On the other hand, it is because of reluctant parents. Therefore, she has been in a low mood recently, always feeling that she has lost a chance to enter the world of super abilities. Because of this, she paid more attention to Mutants news. When she saw that Hulk was doing an endorsement for Oasis, she immediately became interested and signed up decisively. Who would have thought it would be picked? Is this the favor of the goddess of fate? For a moment, Gwen thought it was his own hallucination because the population of Twisting City was too large. How small was the probability of picking 100 out of more than 8 million people? Without the slightest hesitation, she grabbed the bracelet and rushed to the bedroom on the second floor. Then, I can't wait to put on the bracelet. Ding! The black bracelet can automatically adapt to the file size of the wrist, and it will open automatically when it touches the skin. In an instant, a red light shot out, like a scanner, quickly passing over Gwen's body. Before she could react,
No more novels? Take part in the voting. The most requested novels and those with the most likes will be chosen for publication on euroaudiobooks.com. There, I can upload as much as I want without the risk of receiving a strike. Our 18 novels and other content that exceed what is morally acceptable are only published on Patreon or the free novels page. Remember, the site is funded by donations on Ko-fi and Patreon memberships.